What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto's power wasn't enough after the 4th Great Ninja War? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto, there is another power far beyond you just using my chakra. From what the sage told me it far surpasses anything able to be comprehended. Then why are you just telling me this now? I did not think it would be needed, nor did I like you enough to trust you with this information. Well, what is this power? From what the sage told me before he passed, it is called Baryon mode. It has the tailed beast and the Jinkurichi combine their chakra, creating a large amount of energy superheating the Jinkurichi's chakra, allowing them to gain unmatched reflexes, strength, and chakra. Are there drawbacks? Not exactly. You are only able to use it for as long as the two have chakra. Then, it will turn off, causing both to faint, leading to extreme chakra exhaustion. But, that is a drawback. From what the sage told me there could have been a chance of it destroying the chakra used, so it is not a drawback compared to that. Besides, I have found a remedy for it. I can allow you to use Sage mode in tandem with Baryon mode. We can fuel it for far longer, considering I am always still, allowing me to always absorb Senjutsu chakra. I see your point, and that last part sounds awesome. Well, how do we do this then? Just unlock the seal, and we will be able to do it. Okay, Datbeo. Kakashi and Guy stood there in despair on the battlefield. 5-tailed beasts had just fired Biju bombs right at them. Then, somehow, they just disappeared. Standing right in front stood a man, no more like a humanoid. And the humanoid had 9 things floating behind him. He was covered with what looked like a reddish green. That would just be yellow, wouldn't it? Cloak, and had fox-like ears at the top of his blonde head. As he saw this, the wheels and Kakashi's head started to turn. 9 tails, blonde, fox-like ears, Naruto. Naruto, is that really you? Asked Kakashi. Naruto turned around, his glowing red eyes and the surrounding orange pigment illuminating the surroundings with a power unseen by Kakashi or Guy in their entire lives. I've mastered the power of the 9 tails and he is letting me use Sage mode now, too. Said who we now know to be Naruto. As Naruto stated this, the 9 tails started to move and form a protective barrier around the 3 of them. Kakashi and Guy were mesmerized. Never in their life had they felt such a chakra presence. It was hard and strong, but felt warm and comforting to them. They were struggling to stand in his presence. Naruto, your chakra is incredible. It's almost too much to handle, Guy remarked, struggling to remain steady. Well, stay back and let me handle this. As this conversation was happening, the entire battlefield felt the presence of Naruto. Most people had feared for the worst, thinking it was the 10 tails. In the command center, this chakra presence is enormous. I can feel it from here. How could anything wield such power? Stay down. Imagine the chakra signature of the 10 tails in the command center but a little smaller. Inoichi, connect to Kakashi and Guy and ask what is going on. Stated Shikaku. As Inoichi connected with Kakashi and Guy, Obito was looking at them from the other side of the field. How has he gained such a massive chakra and why can I barely move? From the other side of the battlefield, Edo Madara was thinking the exact same thing. Everyone on the battlefield was frozen from the sheer amount of chakra pressure created by Naruto. Sasuke, who, after just defeating Kabuto and watching his brother die for a second time, was heading to where he thought to be Madara's whereabouts, suddenly felt this chakra. He had thought nothing could be this strong, not even Madara. What can be so powerful? Kakashi, are you okay, and what if that presence? I am fine. I just can't move. Oh, and that presence, that is Naruto. Said the Cyclops. How can that be Naruto? It feels like nothing I have ever imagined. All he told me and Guy was that he mastered the 9 tails power and can use Sage mode in tandem with it. How could that give him so much power? After this, Inoichi told the rest of the people in the command center and they were about as shocked as he was. What do you mean that is Naruto? Shouted everyone there. Naruto has mastered this power. We can't just sit back, we need to notify the other teams to go and help him. Ordered Shikaku. As Shikaku ordered this, Obito was glaring daggers at Naruto, wanting nothing more than to kill him. Naruto, on the other hand, was just standing there, the ground cracking under his immense chakra pressure, the air humming with electricity. Sometimes it would crackle and spark, making a tiny crater on the ground. Then he rushed at Obito so fast that he did not know until it was too late. It had looked like he had teleported. He grabbed Obito with his tails. The grip was so strong Obito felt like he was going to be crushed into goop. All his chakra was rushing out of his body and fueling Baryon mode. Naruto looked at him, his eyes piercing through him. Then a rod came flying at Naruto. He jumped to the side, while keeping Obito in his tails, dodging the chakra rod. "So you can dodge that, Uzumaki," called out a smooth, monotone voice from across the battlefield. Naruto looked at where he heard the voice come from. He saw a man with pale white skin, a white kimono, and black hair in a ponytail. "Do not think, thinking in this mode only shows you down," Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's head. "I can sense him and he is not a match for us, but there is something I find strange about him, like he isn't what he seems to be on the surface. So we finally meet, and it seems it is sooner than I expected," the palm man stated calmly. "Who are you?" called out everyone but Naruto, who was standing there, looking at him, seeming to pierce through his very being. "Me? I am just a mere monk, who has come to see what all this fuss is about," said the man in a matter-of-fact tone. "I don't think mere monks can fly," Kakashi remarked sarcastically. "Oh, are you creatures so lowly you cannot fly?" The man's tone dripped with sarcasm. "No, not normally, and aren't you the same creature as this?" Guy asked skeptically. "How could I be such an inferior creature like you?" The man spat venomously. At this moment, Naruto leapt, almost instinctively, or what looked like teleported to the others, behind the man and kicked him, hard, and sent him flying towards the man. While Naruto was not thinking, he was still conscious of himself and what the man had said had struck a chord deep within Naruto. "And, when I say teleported I am saying what it looked like to the viewers of the fight." The man got up, dust-free, his appearance altered. He now had a horn curling around his head, and had black markings all along his face and arms. "So, you can pack a punch, but you will have to do better than to harm me." "Boy," said the man. Naruto teleported again to the man, this time right in front of him, and sucker punched him right in the chin, causing his body to do a brutal 360. Then, he teleported again, hitting him square in the front of the head, knocking him down. "How? He has hit me twice now and Jigen's body has lost an enormous amount of chakra. This body really is too weak. Where is a suited vessel where I can find one?" As he thought this he looked right in front of him. "It will have to do." He then leapt at Naruto, his palm heading out towards his face, and right as his fingers were about to graze at Naruto's skin, he vanished. The man froze, disbelief covering his face, a low growl emanating from his throat. Naruto had appeared a few feet away from where he was, his eyes sharp, betraying only an immense amount of resolve. His eyes locked onto the man, observing his every movement, as the man got up with noticeable fury. "You're faster than I expected," muttered the man, "but this body won't allow me to waste time." The man's chakras spiked and, with a noise, his right eye turned from a pitch black to a wheel with 8 golden rods. Then, rods came flying at Naruto, but, as effortlessly as before, he dodged all of them gracefully, looking like a dancer on stage. "Enough of this, if you want to play with a god, you'll have to try harder, boy," said the self-proclaimed god. "Then, show me what true resolve is, false god," said Naruto, raising his right hand behind him, putting his left behind his back, staring intently at the man. "You mocked me, you inferior creature." The man spat venomously. With that the man flew at Naruto, but Naruto dodged and struck him on the back with a powerful kick, sending him to the ground, making a 5-foot-deep crater. "You!" The man spat venomously while glaring up at Naruto, and with that a portal appeared beneath him and he vanished. The command center approximately 5 minutes ago. Another huge chakra signature has appeared, and it is right on top of Naruto's position. Started Ao, shocked. Inoichi. On it, and Inoichi made a connection with Kakashi. "Kakashi, what is going on there? A pale man has just appeared and has attempted to attack Naruto, I will keep you updated." And after every action Kakashi said Naruto did, Inoichi decided from the very beginning to connect with every soldier of the allied forces and tell them just what was going on. Every shinobi was shocked that Naruto was able to teleport, as described by the legendary copy ninja. As they heard the entire 5-minute fight, no one could believe what had just happened. that Naruto had just defeated 2 enemies in the span of 5 minutes, who, one, thought to be Madara Uchiha, and one who could also teleport and had an unknown dojutsu. The command center was buzzing with tension. The pale man's enormous chakra signature had just vanished. We cannot assume the threat is over. Keep your eyes on any abnormalities, commanded Shikaku. On the battlefield, Naruto stood alert, scanning the field in front of him, sensing that something was off. He could still feel the man's eerie energy, but it was very faint. Something's not right about this guy. He is still hiding something, but I don't think he can fully fight. A now normal Naruto said to Kakashi and Guy. His chakra was unstable. Kakashi said, "In a hidden place far away from the battlefield." Jigen's body lay on the ground like a rag doll, feeling the strain from his battle, the stone on his stomach with cracks running all alongside it. Damn this vessel, it is too weak, it can barely contain my true power. The truth was simple. Jigen's body wasn't meant to withstand Ashiki's full form, only a way to survive after almost being killed by Kagaya. He could only manifest his true form for 3 days before he would die for all eternity. He had to find a suitable host. Back at the battlefield, Naruto's gaze sharpened. He isn't done. Every time I hit him I could feel something he was holding back, something massive. Well, his very unyouthful appearance and way of speaking is almost an assurance that if we work hard and enter our springtime of youth we will be able to beat him. Guy orated, flames burning in his eyes, fist pumped. Huh, did you say something? Kakashi asked. Ah, my hip and eternal rival. Guy was crying now. In the distance, Jigen's, now known as Ashiki, voice could be heard. Soon Uzumaki, soon. When I find a proper vessel and release my true form you will be no more than sand to my feet. Naruto stood amid the cratered battlefield, his gaze sweeping over the destruction, rocks and debris scattered like memories of the fierce battle fought. As he looked about the destruction he remembered something, or someone. Where's the masked man? He had completely slipped from his mind because of the pale man. He looked to where he thought he should be, but he wasn't there. Naruto's heart quickened. Naruto, what's with you? Do you have ants in your pants or something? Kakashi asked, eyebrow raised. I don't know where the masked man is. Naruto said, alarmed. Kakashi's sweated dropped at that, giving Naruto a dubious look. Naruto, he's right there, you're standing on him. He dropped there when you stopped using Kyuubi's power. Naruto looked down and, surely enough, he was standing on him, and his eyes were bulging out from his head from Naruto trying to find him. I knew that, Naruto said, a pout marring his face. I was just testing you guys. Obito started to stir from being trampled upon. Get off me, brat. Obito all but just got out. You guys watch over him. I need to talk to Kyuubi, and with that he started meditating. As Naruto focused in, delving into himself, he found himself in his mindscape, the Kyuubi's hulking form towering right in front of him, looking as unimpressed as usual. Are you okay after using that much chakra? The Kyuubi rumbled, almost as if laughing. I am fine. Wheat-tailed beasts have ways of regenerating chakra faster than humans do. How? We were once part of the 10 tails, the living representation of the land, a being made purely of nature chakra. And wheat-tailed beasts were created from the 10 tails, so we can, to some extent, replenish our chakra by using natural energy. Naruto's eyes widened, so that is why you can use Sage Mode better than me. Kyuubi smirked. Of course I can use Sage Mode better than you. I am 1,000 years older than you. That doesn't mean anything. Pouting while saying this. Cheeky brat, he muttered, but a hint of amusement fluttered in his eye. At least I'm not a grumpy old fox. Naruto shot back, grinning. Keep dreaming, kid. A comfortable silence filled the mindscape. It was broke by Naruto. What should we do with the masked man and Edo Madara? Naruto asked. Since Madara is essentially immortal from him escaping the Edo Tensei, all we can do is hope sealing him would work. Something I might be of help with. But the masked man has no chakra, on account of us draining it when we picked him up and held him with our tails. Oh, right, he can't do anything. Naruto put. All we can now is wait for the rest of the army to get here. All around the battlefield, everyone could finally move again because Naruto was not in Baryon mode anymore. When Edo Madara could finally move, he started running toward the pressure to figure out where it came from. He was shocked by the pressure. Nothing had ever made him freeze like that before. But, in his arrogance he dismissed it. I tamed the Kyuubi, unlocked the Rinnegan, the first since the Sage of Six Paths. I pulled giant rocks from space. What could be stronger than me? Madara Uchiha. In a matter of minutes he got there and saw a peculiar scene in a destroyed crater. The Jinchuriki meditating, two weirdos arguing, and his apprentice lying on the ground. Madara leapt toward Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes, sensing Edo Madara, and in a snap of a finger was in Baryon mode. And Madara felt he could not move again. Why are you here? Naruto spoke authoritatively towards Edo Madara. It was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi that made this pressure. If I just do what I did to Kyuubi he will be under my control. His eyes turned red and black, his Mangekyo Sharingan spinning to life as it activated and looked directed into Naruto's eyes and cast a powerful genjutsu. One able to render the mighty Kyuubi within his grasp. Nothing came from this attempted mind control on account of Naruto being a perfect Jinchuriki now and him just having more chakra than Madara in this form. Naruto extended his hand towards Madara thinking about what Kurama had told him. Flashback. Naruto, this sealing jutsu is very powerful. So power in fact, that it can only be used when you are in Baryon mode. Why is it so powerful? It erases what the seal touches from existence. Naruto fell face first onto the sewer floor and sprung right back up. How? The sage said he found the technique in his mother's library, Kage, the mother of all chakra, after he and his brother killed her. All it said was, this technique is called Fuinjutsu. Mugen no Insho, meaning sealing art, impression of infinity. It is named this because it suggests that once one is erased, nothing remains. That is all the tablet said. The sage thought what it did was that the caster had to overwhelm the other person's chakra and soul, leading to them getting destroyed, leaving no trace. And no seal can counter this one. Well, how do I cast a Fuinjutsu? I'll do it for you. Oh, can I ask you a question? Kurama raised an eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity crossing his features. What is it, brat? You don't usually hesitate to blurt out your thoughts. Taking a deep breath, Naruto mustered his courage. I know you're more than just the 9 tails. You have a history, a past, and I want to know your real name. For a moment, Kurama was silent, the weight of the question hanging in the air. His eyes softened slightly, a gesture that surprised Naruto. You truly wish to know? Of course, Naruto exclaimed, excitement bubbling within him. You're my partner now. I want to know everything about you. A low, rumbling chuckle escaped Kurama's throat, shaking the ground beneath Naruto. Very well. My name is Kurama. It means, the 9 tails in the ancient tongue, but it is more than that. It represents the strength of my spirit and the bond we share. Kurama, Naruto repeated, letting the name roll off his tongue. It felt significant, almost like a promise. That's an awesome name. Kurama's expression shifted from amusement to something resembling warmth. You have come to see me as more than just a beast. This is a new beginning for us both. Naruto's heart swelled with emotion. Yeah, it is. I promise to honor our bond, Kurama. Together, we'll protect everyone. Kurama's eyes glinted with approval. You've changed, Naruto. And for the better. Together, we will forge a new path. As they locked eyes, a profound connection formed between them, a silent understanding that transcended words. In that moment, Naruto felt the weight of his past lift, replaced by the strength of a newfound friendship. Go, Naruto, together we shall not fail. End flashback. He attempted to cast the Fuinjutsu Kurama had told him about, but when he was to release it, a black hand reached out for Madara from behind, trying to reach its target. Naruto vanished, reappearing right where the hand was, capturing it in an iron grip, draining its chakra. How have you become so powerful? Black Zetsu asked, alarmed. Naruto stared sharply at him as he tried, and failed, to get out of Naruto's vice-like grip, his chakra quickly ebbing away. Naruto continued to stare sharply at him, feeling Zetsu's strength slowly draining away. You underestimate the people you try to manipulate, Naruto declared calmly, but with a hint of finality. Zetsu's black mass writhed in Naruto's grip, attempting to twist free. How? My plan was foolproof. You are a Jinchuriki? Someone with stolen power. I fight to protect, not to control, Naruto declared firmly, his resolve hardening. I refuse to underestimate those who can threaten my friends. Fuinjutsu. Mugen no Insho. And with that, white markings spread over Zetsu's body. As the ceiling marking spread, black Zetsu started writhing. No. The prophecy. Kaguya. She will return. You all will bow to her, his voice desperate. Trailing off as the seal took hold. Not as long as I live. Naruto fastly declared. A bright flash of light happened to Zetsu's body and he vanished, never to be seen again. With Zetsu gone, the battlefield felt lighter, but there was still business to take care of. Now to deal with you, Naruto declared as he set his sights on the Edo Madara. Madara sneered, unbothered by the fact that he couldn't move due to Naruto's aura, and seeing black Zetsu phased out of existence. What do you think you are going to do to me? Naruto teleported behind him, casted the sealing jutsu on him, causing him to turn into white light, vanishing without a trace. Naruto deactivated Baryon mode, emotions bubbling in his chest. He looked to his left and he saw over the horizon the allied shinobi forces, who had just witnessed his battle. As they came closer, you could see the awe in every one of their eyes, especially the company led by Gaara, who had been utterly crushed by Madara. Naruto gave a tired smile. It's over now, but we'll always need to stay ready. The tension slowly eased into relief, and one by one, the shinobi began to cheer, the sound echoing across the battlefield, a chorus of hard-won victory. As they were cheering for him, thoughts began to wander, leading to him getting lost in thought. What am I going to do with all this power? What will people think of me? I have erased the existence of 2 people, killed 2 people. Doesn't that go against my whole ideology of not killing people? What if I could have reasoned with them? Brat, Black Zetsu has been around for longer than I have. There was no saving him. All he wanted to do was revive Kage. Madara wanted to cast Tsukuyomi on the world, capturing people and slowly killing them. By killing 2 people you saved the entire world. They are cheering for you right now. They love you. And they all felt your power, they also could not move. Kurama reminded him. Naruto felt a warmth spread in his chest as he watched all the admiration across everyone's face. I guess you're right. I have what I always wanted, recognition, and from all of the shinobi of the 5 great nations, as well as the samurai. And all these people would not be here if they did not die. This was more than just achieving a goal to Naruto, he had achieved his life's work. Everything he had ever done in his life was to get recognition from his fellow people. At this, tears streamed down Naruto's cheeks, a mix of joy and relief flooding his heart. I won't let this power go to waste. I will use it to protect the people of this world from threats. Naruto declared in his mind. As the people wondered why he was crying, he opened his eyes, and smiled, his first true smile in all his life. And people cheered with renewed vigor, their voices a rising chorus of admiration and hope. Naruto stood tall, feeling a profound connection to everyone around him. In that moment, he understood that true strength came not just from power, but from the bonds he had forged and the lives he aimed to protect. This was a turning point not just for him, but for the entire shinobi world, united in their fight against darkness. It had been only days since he had saved the world, while defeating 3 high-threat level ninja people in the span of an hour. He was currently sitting in front of the 5 Kage narrating what happened during the war. And that's about it, Naruto happily declared. So, what you are saying is 1. You and the Kyuubi are friends now. His name is Kurama, and he isn't a mean fox wanting nothing but destruction in the world. 2. That white light was a sealing jutsu Kyuubi told you about that makes whatever the sealing diagram touches erase from existence with no counter seal. And 3. You can use both Baryon mode and this seal whenever you want? Tsunade posed toward Naruto. Yeah, Tsunade sighed. Well, it's not like we can stop you. All 5 of us could not stop Madara, let alone that pale man. You, by just being in this mode, made it impossible for him, and everyone on the battlefield to be able to move. Tsunade said. Well, it isn't like I will destroy the world. I still have to relieve you from your job, right, Ba-chan? Yeah, I guess so, but it will be a long time until you take that chair from me. Tsunade said sarcastically. Well, I can wait. I have already achieved one of my life's goals anyway. Naruto said happily. I thought your goal was to become Hokage. That and being recognized for being myself and not the fuzzball. Kakashi suddenly walked in the room, as hip as ever. Lady Hokage, we have to go back to the village. I guess you're right, Kakashi. Come on, Naruto, and bye, fellow Kages. Tsunade turned and walked out of the room with Naruto in tow. They had a lot of walking ahead of them, considering they were back in the Cloud Village. As they were discussing what their plans for the future were, Naruto had a renewed sense of purpose. Naruto realized that this would be a new chapter, not for himself, but for everyone in the Hidden Leaf. As they made their way back to the Hidden Leaf, they had one Jonin lead 6 Chunin back to the village, so it would decrease the time it took to get back, increasing efficiency and causing less delay if someone needed a bathroom break. Lucky for Naruto, being the savior of the world had perks. Like traveling with the Hokage. The landscape around them was beautiful. They were somewhere in the land of hot springs, a bored state between the land of light and fire. It had beautiful trees, grass, and flowers. And right now, the sun was setting, making a picturesque view of the sky. Naruto was traveling back with just Tsunade, Kakashi, Guy, and Sakura. Sakura had hounded them with questions all the way from the Cloud Village, wanting to know everything. Naruto sighed. It was getting quite annoying listening to Sakura drone on about his accomplishments when all he wanted to do was get to his apartment and sleep for 3 weeks. Wait a second, am I actually finding Sakura annoying? That might be a side effect from Baryon mode. How? Baryon mode mixes both of our chakras, causing both of us to gain characteristics from each other, making you smarter, less irritable, and many more traits from myself and others befitting natural energy. Since the method we were using uses none of your chakra, I get none of your traits. Is it you or natural energy making me find her annoying? Me, that howler monkey is so loud. It hurts my ears whenever she talks. A picture of Kurama holding his paws to his ears popped up in his mind. He snickered. She may be loud and annoying, but she isn't a howler monkey. Tomato. Naruto rolled his eyes at his and Kurama's banter, trying to ignore how annoying Sakura was being right now. Sakura, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I didn't save the world for a fan club, Naruto replied, a grin pulling at his lips despite his annoyance. Can't a hero catch a break? Well, that doesn't take away from the fact that what you did was amazing, Naruto. Sakura said, her face softening. It isn't every day you save the world from Madara Uchiha after all. Kakashi added, agreeing with Sakura. Still, I don't know what happened to the Pale Man. He and Black Zetsu were the only people that were still capable of moving when I was in Baryon mode. He was hiding something, a great power, one that might rival mine. Naruto said grimly. Well then, we will have to enter our springtime of youth to keep him at bay then. Guy exclaimed in his usual enthusiastic tone. Tsunade chuckled, glancing back at Naruto as they jumped through the trees. You have changed a lot, Naruto. Just months ago you would have been bragging to everyone about what you did, but now, you are getting annoying at people singing your praises. Wasn't your goal to be recognized and now you are telling people to stop recognizing your accomplishments? Isn't that a bit hypocritical? Tsunade narrated. Yeah, but it is annoying. Naruto said flatly. Maybe you just need to get used to it, Sakura suggested, her voice lightening. You've accomplished something incredible. It's okay to let people celebrate that. Naruto sighed. I guess, it's just that I've always wanted to be acknowledged for who I am, not just for what I do. I don't want to become this legend who can't connect with people anymore. Kakashi nodded. That is an important realization. It is easy to get lost in people's expectations, but remember, it is your friends and bonds that matter the most. Yash, as stated by my youthful rival. We will help keep you grounded. Guy adds enthusiastically. Tsunade smiled at Naruto. You are already on the right path, Naruto. Just be yourself and you will make it. As they continued to Konoha, their bonds all strengthened. As they began to enjoy the journey through the trees, Naruto finally began to appreciate the praise, rather than be burdened by it. They had gotten back to the village a couple hours ago and Naruto was lying in his bed, his room clean having been seldom used. He was pondering what to do next. I cannot solely rely on Baryon mode to beat everything even though it is ridiculously powerful. Plus, what if I become a grumpy old fox like Kurama? Oi, brat, I heard that. Never mind that, Kurama. How should I train? What do I need to improve on? While Baryon mode is making you smarter, you still have a long way to go. Kurama replied. You lack wisdom, and without wisdom, intelligence is nothing. You have a good battle mind, but there is always someone better at something than you. You lack speed, a proper taijutsu style. You have 1 ninjutsu and 2 shape manipulation techniques. While your chakra control is excellent, you sometimes use it wastefully. There will be a time where you will fight someone with more chakra than you, so you need to use your chakra sparingly. I'd recommend asking the Hokage to give you books for your shadow clones to use and get whatever your parents left you to train with. Naruto began smirking deviously. Maybe Dad left the Flying Thunder God technique. Think about how easy it'd be to get ramen if I could teleport there. Naruto began to salivate. Just thinking about ramen always made him hungry. Stupid brat. This is what I'm talking about. You're the least wise kid I've ever known, and I've met more people than you could ever count. Oh, right, sorry about that. But how do I improve my wisdom? There are two sides to being smart. Intelligence, what you know at a given time. And wisdom, knowing how to use it. If you have one but not the other, you are unbalanced. It's like chakra. You cannot have more yin than yang chakra or vice versa. If you do, you'll be severely limited. You have more yin than yang chakra, showing your emphasis on your physical body rather than your mental body. You could have much more power regularly. If you resolve this imbalance, you will become far more powerful. So do I just have to train my intelligence and wisdom for the imbalance to be resolved? Yes and no. What do you mean, yes and no? While there are two facets to smartness, there are two types of smarts. Kurama explained. Book smarts and real-world smarts. Real-world smarts is how to apply your book smarts. Book smarts and real-world smarts are like intelligence and wisdom. You cannot have one without the other. How do I train real-world smarts? It's on the name. Apply your knowledge to the real world. While you are still naive, you have more real-world smarts than book smarts. Why is that? The abuse of the villagers created a reason for you to become real-world smart. If you hadn't adapted, you wouldn't be here today. Oh, Naruto thought solemnly. Do not let that get you down. With your shadow clones, it should be easy to rectify this. You can gain years of experience in a matter of days with your shadow. Now that we are in sync, you can dispel more shadow clones at one time, decreasing the mental side effect of the shadow clone jutsu. There is no time like the present. Let's get going, Naruto said with determination as he dashed out of his apartment toward the Hokage tower. I would be happy to give you all that you need, Tsunade said to Naruto with a warm smile. Thanks Ba-chan, you're the best, Naruto said with stars in his eyes. Tsunade stood up and walked over the wall with the pictures of the Hokages on them, specifically the fourth, and grabbed hold of it and opened it. Behind was a safe. She put in the combination. As she worked the combination, Naruto leaned forward, practically on the edge of his seat despite standing the whole time in her office. Finally, she pulled out 4 scrolls from the safe and handed them to Naruto. He was eager to read everything they had in them. At least he is still as curious as ever. Tsunade thought before saying, this one with the red swirl on it is from your mother, and the 3 with the lightning bolts are from your father. The one with the biggest one is what he wrote to you. We can guess what the other ones are. As Tsunade finished, Naruto swiped them out of her hand, his eyes drawn to his father's. Dear Naruto, if you haven't learned already, I am your father, Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, but if you were reading this you already know that. I wish I could be there with you, but this letter will have to do. I want to apologize for what I had to do, even though the chakra imprint I left in the seal has likely explained it all by now. I wanted for you to be a hero. That was my last wish. I wanted you to be the hero who kept Kyuubi under control, but instead, you were probably hated for it. I would like to apologize for putting you through that. Like you, I was an orphan, but you are going to have it much worse than me. I had Jiraiya-sensei. If you ever meet him, please don't become a pervert. Your mom would kill me if you did. But you will most likely only have Hiruzen, who will be busy being the Hokage. I should probably tell him that you can use shadow clones to do all the work, but I have no time to do that. I need to seal the Kyuubi. I want you to know that I will always love you more than anything. And the other 2 scrolls are for the Rinnegan and Flying Thunder God, but Jiraiya has probably taught you the Rinnegan by now. Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage. And, most importantly, Dad. Tears were already streaming down his face by the time he had finished the letter. But they were not tears of sadness, but tears of pure happiness. After being told for years your father and mother abandoned you knowing they didn't was a great thing. Warmth was bubbling in his chest. This was the happiest moment of his life. Since he didn't want this to end, he started to read his mother's letter, hoping the contents were similar to his father's. Dear Naruto, I am currently writing this before your dad takes me to the hidden place where you will be born. I have a bad feeling, like something will go wrong during your birth, so I am writing this just in case. I want you to know that me being pregnant with you was the happiest time in my life. Every time you kicked, I was overcome with joy, knowing I would meet you, my little bundle of joy. But I fear you may face challenges like I did. If things don't go as planned, you might end up as the Kyuubi's vessel. If that happens, remember that people may be unkind, just as they were with me. I was picked on for my red hair and being different, but those words weren't true. And the things they say to you aren't true either. In my years of living I have believed in many things, but this is what I am sure of is you. You will grow up to be a wonderful man and a powerful shinobi. Just know that I will always support you, no matter if I am with you or not. I love you more than anything in this world. Kushina Uzunami Namikaze, your mother. As Naruto read what his mother wrote, a new wave of tears streamed down his cheeks. Warmth filled his heart, grounding him with a love that, despite everything, had never left him. Naruto clutched the letters close, letting his breath steady as he absorbed the warmth of his parents' words. Their confidence in him wasn't just comforting, it was empowering. He could almost feel them by his side, guiding him through each new challenge. Taking a deep breath, he carefully folded the letters and tucked them into his jacket near his heart. This connection to them was too precious to risk losing, even for a moment. Kurama's voice broke the silence, gruff but softer than usual. Well, brat, they sure believed in you. Naruto's hand rested over the letters in his jacket. Yeah, they did. They still do. A moment passed, and then Kurama, unable to resist the urge to keep Naruto grounded, added, sentimental fool. They're not here, but that doesn't mean you're any less of a knucklehead. Naruto chuckled, wiping away his tears, but his grin remained. Guess I'll have to make him proud, huh? And maybe you, too, furball. He felt Kurama's amused scoff rumble in his mind, followed by a flicker of approval that Naruto didn't need to comment on to recognize. With renewed determination, Naruto turned and bolted toward the training grounds, knowing what he needed to do. His heart raced not just from the sprint but from the newfound purpose that his parents' words had sparked. The scrolls he held were gifts from them, gifts he needed to master if he was going to carry on their legacy and protect the village. The training ground felt different today. The usual buzz of chakra in the air, the wind rustling through the trees, and the sunlight spilling over the area felt more alive, charged with energy. As he summoned his clones and laid out his plan, a wave of dizziness washed over him, but he brushed it aside. Alright, guys, Naruto said to his clones, we're going to master the Flying Thunder God technique. In no time flat. Now, 100 clones work on now wasting chakra, of you 100 on water, the other on trees. You all will try to perfect the Rinnegan, and I mean make it perfect, more perfect than the faces on the Hokage mountain, Naruto commanded. Voice steady despite the strange weight pressing on him. As his clones dispersed to their tasks, he dived into the Flying Thunder God scroll. However, between studying complex patterns and focused breaths, the weight grew heavier. His movements began to slow as he noted instructions, his fingers trembling slightly. As dusk fell, Naruto could feel the Baryon mode's lingering toll resurfacing, a delayed backlash from the massive amount of chakra that was in his system. Just as he tried to summon more clones, the world spun faster than ever, darkness closed in on him, and he stumbled forward, falling face first on the ground. Naruto blinked, his vision slowly focusing on the sterile white ceiling above him, the distinct antiseptic smell filling his nose. He was definitely in the hospital. The last thing he remembered was pushing himself to his limits in training, dismissing any signs of fatigue, until everything went dark. Oi, brat, Kurama's voice echoed in his mind. Now that you're awake, you can thank whoever dragged your unconscious self in here. Right, Naruto thought back. Guess I owe them one. But, what happened? Why'd I pass out? Kurama grumbled, his tone a mix of irritation and concern. If I were to hazard a guess, your body's still reeling from the strain of Baryon mode. That technique's beyond anything else you've tried, and it looks like your body wasn't fully ready for it. When the sage said there were no bad effects, he might have been mistaken, considering he was a grown-up and had the Rinnegan when he used it and, unlike you, was half extraterrestrial. Naruto sighed internally, feeling the weight of the revelation. How am I supposed to defend the village if I pass out every time I try something like that? I can't afford to be out of commission with the pale man and the masked man just brought to Anbu prison the other day. Wait, Did you say the Sage of Six Paths was half alien? Kurama huffed. Yes, I did, but we can save that conversation for later. You cannot rush what you can endure. It takes time. It can be a long process, but if anyone can do it in such a short time, it would be you. Take it slow for now. Before Naruto could respond, a familiar voice pulled him from his thoughts. Naruto, you're awake. Tsunade's voice filled the room, her expression shifting from relief to her usual tough love. Do you have any idea how lucky you are? Naruto managed a weak grin, already feeling the familiar mix of comfort and anxiety that Tsunade's presence always brought. Ba-chan, Naruto whined, how was I supposed to know I was going to pass out? Tsunade rolled her eyes. Well, learn your limits, brat, because if you keep pulling stunts like that, no more Fly Thunder God training for you. Tsuande commanded. Ah, but Ba-chan, but it is such a cool jutsu. Naruto pouted. And it is a jutsu that puts you in urgent care. Don't push yourself any more than necessary, brat. And with that, Tsunade walked out of the room, leaving Naruto with just Kurama. Once Tsunade left, Naruto let out a long sigh, sinking back into his bed. The adrenaline from the training had faded, leaving a lingering ache in his muscles. He knew better than to argue with Tsunade, especially when she was in lecture mode, but he couldn't shake the frustration. How could he be expected to protect everyone if he had to hold back? Oi, brat. Kurama's voice echoed in his mind. She's right, you know. You keep using Baryon mode in a battle like it's a standard jutsu, you're going to pay for it. Pushing your limits doesn't mean ignoring them. Naruto sighed, staring at the ceiling. I know, Kurama. It's just, I thought I had it under control. I have to get stronger, though. If I don't, the pale man and the masked man. Kurama huffed. Then get stronger the smart way. Training isn't about hitting a wall over and over, it's about gradually breaking through it. Besides, you've got the Flying Thunder God to master, don't you? Naruto's eyes lit up a bit at the mention. Yeah, I mean, that was part of why I was training so hard, he admitted, his voice tinged with excitement. Dad made that jutsu into something amazing. If I can master it, maybe I won't have to rely on Baryon mode as much. Well, it's since you have used Baryon mode you have finally seemed to be able to think coherently. Kurama teased. At least I'm not a grumpy old fox with a god complex. Naruto shot back. At least I'm not a brat that doesn't know what his limits are. After their banter, a comfortable silence settled between Naruto and Kurama, each reflecting on the conversation. The harsh truth in Kurama's words lingered, but so did the unspoken encouragement, and Naruto couldn't help but feel grateful. He took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of calm, something rare since the war. Slowly, he sat up, ignoring the dull ache in his muscles. He was drained, sure, but the determination simmering within him kept him moving. As he reached for a glass of water beside his hospital bed, the door creaked open. Naruto turned to see Ino stepping inside, her expression softening with relief when she saw him awake. I'm guessing you were the one who found me? Naruto asked Ino. Ino nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Yeah, I found you out cold in the training grounds. You're lucky I was out there. Otherwise, who knows how long you'd have been lying there. Naruto blinked, just now realizing he hadn't even asked. Wait, how long was I out anyway? 2 days. What? 2 days? Naruto's jaw dropped, his shock quickly giving way to a wave of embarrassment. Why did you pass out anyway? Well, it is just a theory, Naruto began, scratching the back of his head. But me and Kurama, the Kyuubi, think it was from using Baryon mode. I heard it wasn't supposed to have any side effects. I thought that too. I think there will be no adverse side effects if your body can handle that amount of power flowing through it at one time. Kinda like how Bushy Brows and Bushier Brow Sensei are after they use the 8 gates. Ino nodded, her expression thoughtful. So, it's like there's a hidden toll on your body you didn't know about? Exactly, Naruto said. It's like I thought I was ready, but my body just wasn't there yet. Well, I've got to tell everyone that they all been worried sick about you, Ino said, giving him a quick smile before turning toward the door. See you soon. Ino ran out the door of his room and Naruto lay back down, a soft smile covering his face, waiting to see his friends. It had been a week since he had felt that enormous pressure, so vast that even in his enhanced state with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, not even he could move even the tiniest muscle. He could not even use his chakra. After the last of the pressure was gone, he had gone back to where Madara was keeping him before he escaped. When he got there were dead white Zetsu everywhere, no doubt victims of that monstrous aura. He had to find out what or who made that because he was confident that no one, not even Madara, could do that. The aura had felt familiar to Sasuke, but there was something unsettlingly different about it. He could not put his finger on who or what it could be. But it had to be someone he had met before. That realization sent a chill through him. If this presence belonged to a former acquaintance who opposed his goals, it could jeopardize everything he was working toward. A chill ran down his spine. Even thinking of the familiarity of it made him nervous, like something was watching him waiting to pounce. He even felt it in his dreams. He was a mouse, and he was being hunted by a cat, one that could be sensed, but not seen. What he felt was not a predator, something he didn't realize at the time, but it was the complete opposite, considering what he felt was Naruto's will at the time. Unbeknownst to him, it included Naruto's will to bring back Sasuke. But to Sasuke, it felt like a dark, oppressive force, contradicting his own sense of strength. How could he, the so-called apex predator, feel like prey? How could something be stalking him like prey when he was the apex predator with his guess of Madara being gone? And yet, whatever this aura belonged to, it was a brutal reminder that he was still not the strongest. He never had been. Itachi had always been better than him, in Shuri Kenjutsu, Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, even the Sharingan up until his death. When he left the village, he only bested Naruto because of the curse mark's influence. Even when he finally defeated Itachi, it was only because his brother was sick, their final fight tainted by illness rather than skill alone. Then came Madara, and now this presence, an elusive power beyond him. As Sasuke mulled over the memory of the aura, something inside him stirred, a shadow of doubt, the kind he hadn't felt since he'd set out on his own path of vengeance and self-mastery. He had sacrificed everything, from his village ties to the bonds of friendship, to become stronger. But now, standing at the threshold of what he thought would be his ultimate power, he was faced with a chilling question. Would it ever be enough? With Madara gone, he had assumed the greatest threat in his way had been eliminated, but this aura, whatever it was, suggested otherwise. It reminded him of Naruto, but with a potency, a rawness, that went beyond the Naruto he'd known. Could it truly be Naruto? Or had his old friend awakened something else within himself, something that would drive Sasuke to push beyond his limits yet again? Sasuke clenched his fists, feeling the burn of frustration. It's like I've been standing in the shadows of others my whole life, he muttered under his breath. First Itachi, then Naruto, and now, whoever this is. Sasuke knew if he dwelled on this, it would get him nowhere. Tainting his thoughts till there was only the madness of curiosity left. He would want to find out who was better than him, and then destroy them like he has done with everyone who had been in his way. Whoever had wielded the power to paralyze him was, by that very act, an obstacle he would have to overcome. But Sasuke understood that, in his current state, he was no match for this new threat. He needed more power. It was always the same, an endless need for strength. Ever since his clan had been massacred, everything Sasuke had done was to gain power. First, it was to kill Itachi, and then, when he learned the truth, it became about destroying the Hidden Leaf Village. Now, his target was Madara, though he wondered if he would ever have the chance to face him. He felt a new motivation take root, feeding his will. Whoever you are, be afraid. For I am Sasuke Uchiha, the last Uchiha, he declared into the forest, his voice ringing through the silence and sending birds scattering from the trees. As the echo of his own voice faded into the depths of the forest, Sasuke felt a surge of fierce determination wash over him. He had voiced his resolve, drawing a line between his past and the path he would carve into the future. This unseen challenger, whoever they were, had sparked something primal within him. A need not just to surpass but to dominate, to rise above even the ghosts of the Uchiha clan's legacy. Yet, even as his declaration lingered, doubt crept in. How many times had he felt this same drive, this consuming need to ascend beyond his perceived limits? First for Itachi, then to seek revenge against the Hidden Leaf, and finally to take down Madara. Each time, he believed that victory would bring him peace. But each battle had only drawn him deeper into an endless cycle, a pit where each triumph only demanded a greater one. Was this the violence Itachi had told him about? He had no idea, but he didn't want to fall into it. It was what made Itachi kill their entire clan. But he was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I was in his very nature to destroy the competition. And he needed more power to destroy what challenge he had coming up next. Sasuke took a deep breath, trying to steady the fire within. His mind raced with thoughts of new paths to power. There were still forbidden techniques, perhaps beyond even his mastery of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He had heard whispers of legendary relics, ancient weapons of unimaginable strength, and forbidden jutsu that only the bravest, or most desperate, shinobi dared to pursue. He paused, considering. Perhaps it was time to seek out something beyond even Madara's power. His mind wandered to legends of chakra beasts and hidden places where energy pulsed so strongly that even the greatest shinobi feared to approach. The cursed valley of the Sage of Six Paths, the deadly ruins of the land of ancestors, places he had once avoided in favor of more practical training. But now, they seemed to whisper to him. Could there be a source of strength there that would ensure he was never stopped again? I will become more than even the clan could have dreamed of, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Madara will be nothing compared to what I will achieve. With renewed purpose, he took a final look back at the forest, a mere reminder of the man he once was. He began to walk, each step heavy with ambition, leading him deeper into the unknown. Sasuke Uchiha was ready to pursue the uncharted paths that would make him unstoppable, whatever the cost. Sasuke set out to the cursed valley of the Sage of Six Paths. It would be a long journey, but he had overcome everything he had ever faced. He was a survivor, he had to be. Since the age of 6, he had been alone, forced to rely solely on himself. He had learned because he needed to, and he would continue to learn and survive, no matter the cost. Naruto was tired. Waiting for your friends to come to your hospital room while you have just woken up from a 2-day nap is exhausting. He prayed to Kami he would never feel this tired again. Sleeping for a long time is hard. Naruto had decided. As the door swung open, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at the sight of his friends streaming into the hospital room. First came Ino and Sakura, their expressions a mix of relief and excitement. Following them were Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, Kiba, and Akamaru, each wearing looks of concern that quickly transformed into smiles upon seeing him awake. Neji, Tenten, Rock Lee, Kakashi, and finally Hinata entered, filling the room with a vibrant energy. Wow, it looks like I've got a whole welcoming committee, Naruto jokes, trying to sit up but feeling a wave of fatigue wash over him. Sakura looked at Naruto, her tone serious. You need to take better care of yourself, Naruto. You can't protect everyone if you're always pushing yourself to the limit. Yeah, but it was totally worth it. I was so close to mastering that new technique, he protested, a determined glint in his eyes. And you can't use whatever technique it was when you're in the hospital, Baka. Sakura chided. Fine, I'll take it easy. I promised, Naruto said. Hinata stood a little shyly at the back, her hands clasped together. I'm just glad you're okay, Naruto. We were really worried. Naruto's heart warmed at her words. Thanks, Hinata. I'll be back on my feet in no time, don't worry. And I'll definitely need your support for my next training session. Kakashi, leaning against the doorframe, watched the interaction with a smile hidden beneath his mask. Just remember, the best shinobi knows when to push and when to rest. It's part of growth, Naruto. With the laughter and chatter surrounding him, Naruto felt a surge of motivation. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about the bonds he had forged and the people who believed in him. He would recover, not just for himself, but for his friends and their shared dreams of a better future. As the day grew older, Naruto grew tired, eventually nodding off while they were still in there. When he did, everyone but Sakura, Hinata, and Ino quietly left, leaving a cozy atmosphere behind. He sure does find a way to get himself into trouble, Sakura remarked, shaking her head with a mix of exasperation and affection. Ino chuckled softly, glancing at Hinata, who was watching Naruto sleep with a gentle smile. You know, I think he thrives on it. It's like trouble finds him, and he just can't help but dive headfirst into it. Hinata nodded, her cheeks flushing slightly as she replied, he's strong, though. He always manages to pull through, no matter how tough things get. Sakura's expression softened as she looked at Naruto, who was peaceful in his slumber. Yeah, but he needs to learn to be more careful. We can't always be there to save him. Ino crossed her arms, her tone playful yet serious. You know, he doesn't always see how much we worry. Maybe that's part of his charm. But I wouldn't mind if he took a little break from the heroics every now and then. Hinata chuckled softly, as long as he keeps trying to get stronger, I think we can help him with that. We can train together when he wakes up. That way, he knows he's not alone. Sakura smiled, feeling the warmth of their friendship. Exactly. He's always been there for us, so now it's our turn to be there for him. And besides, he'll be back to his old self before we know it. Just then, a soft snore escaped from Naruto, making all three girls giggle. They shared a moment of camaraderie, each feeling a deeper bond not just with Naruto, but with each other as well. As the sun began to set outside, casting a warm glow into the room, they settled into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts of hope and friendship, waiting for Naruto to wake up and continue their journey together. When Naruto woke up, he felt stiffer than a tree trunk. He could hardly move his back from being stuck in bed for the last day and after waking up from 2 days of unconsciousness. After a few moments of struggle, he managed to sit up, the white sheets rustling around him. Sunlight filtered through the hospital window, warming his face. "Kurama, what should we do today?" he asked internally, hoping his inner partner would have a plan. "You are too stiff to do anything of use," Kurama replied dryly, "so wait for the old hag to discharge and then we can get to that." Naruto sighed, rubbing his stiff neck. "Guess I don't have much of a choice then." As Naruto lay in his hospital bed recovering, unaware of his friend's journey, Sasuke was nearing his destination, the cursed Valley of the Sage of Six Paths. His path had taken him beyond the known lands of the shinobi world, past the land of Earth, to an ancient and unmarked territory. It was a place whispered about in legends but rarely confirmed by any who lived to speak of it. This place had loomed large in Sasuke's mind since he first heard Itachi's story, an almost mythical tale of a land untouched by time. Itachi had described it as a birthplace, a far-off origin point for the most powerful clans. And years later, Madara had spoken of the same land, claiming it as the ancient homeland of the Uchiha and the Senju clans. A place shaped by the origins of chakra and the will of the Sage of Six Paths himself. With every step closer to the valley, Sasuke's resolve strengthened. If the legends were true, if this valley produced a being of such tremendous power, he needed to know how, and when he knew how, he would harness it, and create the world he imagined. It wasn't just about power for the sake of strength. It was about wielding control over destiny itself, ensuring no one had to undergo the tragedies he had to go through. His vision went beyond mere vengeance now. Sasuke wanted to eradicate the corruption and endless cycle of conflict that consumed the shinobi world. A world without manipulation, free from hidden agendas, where death was no longer the currency of power. He imagined a revolutionized system, one where he would be its creator and ultimate authority. A god who could guide it, enforce justice, and shape it with unbreakable resolve. It had been 4 days since Naruto had collapsed and he was currently dreaming of something. It was really strange what he was dreaming about. 1. He was perfectly lucid during this dream. 2. He felt his consciousness leave his body and go to a far-off land, and 3. It was just weird. He had no idea what he was looking at. It was gray and made of metal. It was a spherical shape, and it had a metal version of a millipede rotating around it. In the center was a yellow glow that was partially blocked by the metal millipedes. It wasn't really a millipede, just something that looked like the body of one. And around that was its container. On the poles there were plus sign-like shapes with plus signs on the equator in the middle. He felt drawn to the shape, or thing, or whatever it was. The slight hum coming from it was enticing. There was a faint warmth coming from it, contrasting the metallic chill it had. He felt a power coming from it. A power that felt like it wasn't supposed to be there. It was otherworldly. He wanted to touch it, but he couldn't because it was just out of his reach. It was then he heard a voice, a whisper, "You finally are here, my child." A chill went down his spine, and he saw a shadow of something in his peripheral vision. Then he felt something enter the cave, something familiar. Then his dream ended, and he was back to dreaming of ramen and nine-tailed foxes. Sasuke had just reached the cursed Valley of the Sage of Six Paths, and when he stepped in the valley, all he saw was grass and trees. This can't be right, there has to be people here, something, Sasuke confusedly thought. He started looking around for anything. After hours of searching he found a cave, and as soon as he looked at the cave he felt a force, the hairs on the back of his head and his arms stood up. He felt like he was being watched. It was almost as strong as the presence he felt 2 weeks ago. He immediately went down into the cave to see what it was. As soon as he went in, he heard a noise, like a whisper. "You are finally here, my child." This creeped Sasuke out to the point where he froze. How could his child be here if I am the only one here? My dad and mother are dead, they can't be alive here, can they? It's just your imagination, get a hold of yourself. You're an Uchiha, nothing can scare you. He delved deeper into the cave. Hours had passed before he found a deep expanse. It was huge. There were walkways to something in a dome. The ceiling had to have been 200 feet from his head. He walked to the middle of the dome, he wanted to see what was there. As he entered the dome he felt small. Its vastness creep in on him, then saw something strange, yet enticing. It was gray and made of metal. It was a spherical shape, and it had a metal version of a millipede rotating around it. In the center was a yellow glow that was partially blocked by the metal millipedes. It wasn't really a millipede, just something that looked like the body of one. And around that was its container. On the poles there were plus sign-like shapes with plus signs on the equator in the middle. It was floating above a pool of water. Its light pulsed at the same frequency as his heart. He was drawn to it, he wanted it, needed it. He felt the power coming off it. If he could harness it he could reach his dreams. He reached out for it, but when his hand was millimeters from it, it stopped. He couldn't move his arms anymore. His arm trembled, veins straining against an invisible force, as if even daring to touch it was forbidden. It was then he heard the voice again. "You consider yourself worthy to wield such a tool as the Iron Heart." A deep voice called out, curious and wary. He couldn't think. All he wanted was what was in front of him. He was straining against the force, but he still couldn't move his arm. The voice called out again, "Strength does not mean worthiness. Tell me, Uchiha, why are you worthy to wield the Iron Heart?" Tension was heavy in the dome. Zetsu thought why he was worthy to wield it. My vengeance? My ambition? His relentless drive to control his destiny? But, how could this Iron Heart possibly understands that? He steadied his breath. "What drives me?" Sasuke's voice was barely a whisper, but it echoed off the dome in the silence of the cavern, "is my blood, my will. I seek this power because I am the only one who can wield it. And I will wield it whether you approve or not." His voice was now octave higher, declaring what he thought his destiny, his will, his ambition, his dream. Silence filled the cavern, only filled by the hum of the Iron Heart. The pressure on Sasuke's arm weakened. The Iron Heart's glow dimmed, then it flared as if it was evaluating him. The voice then spoke up, colder than before. "Many have stood where you stand now, all certain of their own path, but only one has come out unscathed." The Iron Heart opened, showing its yellow core. Then a spark of electricity shot out at Sasuke, hitting him in his chest. An overwhelming presence filling his mind, going through every memory he had. Flashing shot his mind, but he couldn't make any out. Then, through the haze of memories the voice spoke, "Prove yourself, or be destroyed," as they did, lost to time, forgotten to history. Sasuke summoned every ounce of strength he had, steadied himself, and spoke, "Then test me then." His voice defiant, the Sharingan flaring to life, "I'm not like those who have come before." The Iron Heart's core pulsed, bright this time, almost blinding. He felt a surge of power around him, drawing him in, and then he saw something. He saw Konaha, or what was left of Konaha. It was destroyed, buildings crumbled on the ground, nothing left. He saw the faces of people he used to call comrades. "You have the Sharingan, but your path is full of contradictions. You seek to protect, yet you wield it with anger and vengeance." The voice echoed over him. "Are you truly willing to sacrifice your purpose to achieve your ambition?" Sasuke narrowed his eyes, a flicker of doubt brushing across his mind. He knew his motives were twisted, veering between redemption and revenge. He had witnessed the destruction that unchecked power could unleash, yet here he was, compelled to reach for more. And now, something had forced him to confront that contradiction head-on. "You misunderstand. Ambition is just a tool to be used, one I'll use to my advantage. My purpose hasn't changed." The voice, calm yet seething, spoke again. "Would you see this destruction through? Would you take power, knowing the cost?" Sasuke clenched his fists, stealing his breath. He knew what this vision represented, and he refused to let it shake him. His Sharingan flared to life, the vision disappearing, the cavern appearing once more. "I know what I've sacrificed to get here. And I know the consequences of failure, he responded, his voice low and unwavering. But that's why I have to go further, to see this through and bring justice to those who took everything from me. For a moment, there was silence, as if the Iron Heart was contemplating his words. Then the voice returned, softer, almost amused. It seems your words are true, Uchiha, you are not like the others who have come here before. The energy around the Iron Heart stilled, and the tendrils retracted, leaving only the pulsing yellow light. Claim your trial, it said finally, and prove that your resolve is more than ambition. Sasuke steeled himself. He knew everything he had done to get here. Everything he had sacrificed. This time it was not just a physical test, but a mental one. A crucible, forcing him to look at every dark corner of his mind. And as he reached for the Iron Heart once more, he resolved to prove that he would not break. The moment his fingers closed around the Iron Heart, a torrent of energy erupted from its core. Sasuke's vision was engulfed in a blinding red light, and an unbearable pressure crashed over him, leaving him gasping as he felt an unimaginable surge course through his body. The searing pain twisted within him, freezing and scorching his very being in chaotic waves that seemed to rise and fall, intensifying each time they cycled. He fought to keep his footing, staggering as the energy rushed into him, his Sharingan flaring rapidly. The ground beneath him fractured, forming webs of cracks into the ground. They spread all around the cavern, and his mind teetered on the edge, visions flashing and shifting, distorted scenes of Konaha. The faces of those he'd left behind, friends, family, and foes alike. Each face, each memory, bore down on him, testing his resolve. The Iron Heart's voice returned, echoing in his mind, deeper and sharper than before. Is this your limit, Uchiha? The voice resonated, piercing into his very thoughts. Or will you allow this power to consume you as it did those before you? Sasuke's muscles tightened, refusing to let go despite the agony he was experiencing. He would not give in, not to power, not anymore, and not to fear. Each memory that passed seemed designed to dredge up his doubts, each a whisper of his own mind urging him to let go, to surrender to the Iron Heart's power or be destroyed by it. His past mistakes, his regrets, they played on his mind like a relentless assault, tearing down the resolve he had spent so long building up. You don't understand, he gasped, voice barely audible as he forced himself to stand straight. I've come too far to fall now. No matter the pain, no matter the cost. His Sharingan sharpened, the red of his eyes cutting through the haze as he focused all his remaining strength on containing the power. The Iron Heart pulsed in response, the red light dimming and the searing pain ebbing, leaving an icy calm in its wake. Sasuke could feel his heartbeat pounding in his ears, the silence thick and heavy as he steadied his breath, his muscles taut and trembling. Very well, the voice said finally, its tone soft but edged with an unfamiliar warmth, almost respect. You have endured the trial, and your spirit remains unbroken. The Iron Heart's yellow core glowed once more, but this time it was no longer hostile. Instead, it emanated a warmth that spread through Sasuke, a calm yet powerful energy that settled within him, enhancing rather than overwhelming him. The weight of the Iron Heart was now a part of him, a steady presence, amplifying his senses and connecting with the depths of his power. Sasuke, now centered, released a shaky breath, feeling the power at his command without the burning need for control. The cavern seemed to have returned to stillness, yet he knew everything had changed. The Iron Heart's presence had fused with his own, bound by his will and tempered by his unyielding resolve. You have claimed the Iron Heart, the voice whispered, fading into the depths of the cavern. But be warned. Power exacts a price. Remember this, Uchiha, and wield it well. The red glow faded completely, leaving only the faint, humming energy pulsing beneath his skin, a reminder of the trial he had faced and the power he had won. Sasuke turned, stepping out of the cavern and back into the cursed valley, his resolve steeled, his purpose clearer than ever. Naruto had been awake for an hour now. His dream had not left him. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He was eating ramen in his hospital bed, when his senses tingled with the strange pulse of energy that reached him from miles away, an aura dense with a peculiar mix of intensity and intent that he could only describe as hauntingly familiar. Pausing mid-bite, he glanced out of his hospital room window, a chill creeping along his spine. Kurama's voice, usually confident, sounded edged with concern. Did you feel that, Kurama? Naruto asked, his grip tightening around his chopsticks. It reminds me of my dream, yet it is different. I don't know, brat, Kurama responded, the deep rumble of his voice unsettling in its uncertainty. But I'd bet my tails that it's nothing good. Naruto swallowed, closing his eyes as he reached out, trying to trace the lingering presence of the energy. This was unlike anything he had sensed before, different from any foe he had faced, yet within its darkness lay a hint of something driven, even righteous, as if the bearer of that power wielded it not solely for evil, but with an unyielding will to protect, no matter the cost. Whoever or whatever had unleashed this energy, Naruto knew one thing: it was no ordinary chakra. It bore a weight that spoke of trials, sacrifices, and the iron resolve of someone who had faced the depths of their own spirit and emerged forever changed. He clenched his fists, wondering if he'd soon have to confront the force that lingered just beyond his reach. The silence in the room felt heavy, each heartbeat echoing in his ears, as if to mark the start of something he couldn't yet comprehend. Naruto was training to get stronger. It had been a week since he had felt that surge of energy and he had been discharged from the hospital that day. Just thinking about it sent shivers down his spine. He had two threats now that could rival him in Baryon mode if they ever came at him back to back. Could he last? He had gotten the Flying Thunder God down after 2 days of training and could do it at a competent level, or he could throw it and teleport himself or other objects 20 meters away. A decent range, but still leagues from what the scroll said a master could achieve. If he was going to meet these new challenges, he'd need more. Naruto, this won't be enough. You have to be faster and stronger. I know, Kurama, he replied, frustrated. But gaining fitness takes time, especially to this level. Kurama's tone was uncharacteristically thoughtful. There is something. A method the sage once used, but it comes with a cost. Naruto's eyes flashed. Why are you just now telling me about this? Because it uses your life force, brat. Kurama's voice held a tone of caution. In the sage's tongue, it's called Seiki Bunshin no Jutsu, Vitality Clone. It uses a part of your own life to make an exact replica of you. Through it, you can train your physical body directly. The sage used it, but it shortened his life. Even he wasn't immune. Naruto's breath caught as he thought it over. He'd heard rumors of such techniques, but never this close. How much would it take off, if I'm only training? Kurama hesitated. With your Uzumaki blood, even 100 clones a day wouldn't mean much for a month. But each clone will drain a bit of your essence. You'd be trading vitality for power, but at this rate, it may be your only option. Naruto clenched his fists, determination outweighing his fear. What are the hand signs? Kurama responded, they're familiar ones. Ram, snake, tiger for clones, followed by dog, ox, and tiger to bind it to your life force. Be warned, Naruto. This isn't like shadow clones. You'll feel the wear. If you train like this for a month, you should be at the level of fitness needed to use Baryon mode without any drawbacks. Let's get started then. Jigen had been having a bad month. First, a promising vessel dies of unknown causes. Then, he had a brutal encounter with Naruto, leaving him shaken. But now he felt something worse. A surge of energy, so strong that it unsettled him. It left him feeling something he hadn't felt in eons. Scared. Amado, I require your assistance. Jigen commanded. I will be there immediately, Lord Jigen. Amado said subserviently. Within 3 minutes, Amado was in the room, expression unreadable. Locate that energy surge from last week. Spare no resource. Jigen commanded Amado. I was already working on it, Lord Jigen, Amado said with a small nod, and I'm close. Jigen's gaze sharpened. Good. Find it. I want to know the moment you do. And with that, Amado left the room. Sasuke had never felt so alive. Every step, every breath, felt electrified, as if his body was a conduit for raw, untamed power. His vision was sharper, colors more vivid, and details once overlooked now seemed glaringly obvious. His body moved with a precision and speed that made even his past feats pale in comparison. Most strikingly, his chakra reserves surged, deeper and more potent than ever before, a vast ocean of energy at his command. Nothing can stop me now. I will make the world in my image. Sasuke triumphantly thought. With his iron heart-enhanced body, Sasuke felt a boundless energy that pushed him far beyond the need for rest or sustenance. He had made it to the Land of Stone in 2 days. A journey that previously demanded a week was a testament to his newfound strength. Occasionally, he paused to look around at the birds. He especially liked bluebirds. They held a strange nostalgia for him, reminding him of his past self. A blue bird floating aimlessly in the winds of fate. But now, he was like a hawk, in control of where he went. This transformation wasn't just about physical enhancement, it reflected his evolution as a person. He was no longer a victim of circumstances, he was a force of will, carving out his own destiny, rather than the world around him. Yet, even amidst this overwhelming strength, the sight of the bluebirds hinted at a trace of his old self, a poignant reminder of the man he used to be. He had yet to test out any new abilities the Iron Heart may have granted him, but he was confident it was more than what he had already seen. He had made it to Iwagakure in an hour. His goal was simple: to see his reflection, to confront the changes wrought by his transformation. He had made it into the village easy enough. It was easy to mask his presence from people inferior to him, even with his large chakra pool now. All he had to do was find a clothing shop, which happened to be right down the road he had found himself on. He made his way into the shop, the smell of fabric wiggling its way into his nose. "Hello sir, is there anything that I can do to help you today?" The clerk of the store asked politely. "Where's a mirror?" Susuaki asked. "It is just back there, sir," the clerk said nicely, pointing to the back. He strode purposefully to the mirror and positioned himself at its center. The reflection that met his gaze left him momentarily stunned. He was no longer the man he remembered. He is 6 feet tall now, approximately 183 centimeters. His hair was lighter, a light black, a shade straddling the line between gray and not gray. His eyes were no longer onyx, they were a metallic purple, with concentric rings around his pupil. His skin had remained the same tint of white. His chest was visible where he had been struck with electricity by the Iron Heart. There was a scar. It looked like lightning had branched out in a circle on his skin. How the clerk didn't react to this, he did not know. Or the eyes. The mirror reflected not just his altered appearance but the culmination of his journey thus far, a man remade, no longer bound by the past but still tethered to it by scars both physical and emotional. This was the new Sasuke, a figure of strength, purpose, and an unrelenting resolve to confront whatever lay ahead. It had been a day since he had been in Iwagakure. He had descended to go to the uninhabited parts of the land of Earth to see if he had gained new powers from the Iron Heart. The field he was in was colorized by gray stone and large rocks jutting out of the ground. The blue sky was covered by dark clouds. Sasuke thought this was the perfect place to test out his new powers. He knew what his eyes were. His instincts were telling him that they were the Rinnegan, the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths. He did not know how, but he knew how to use them. He aimed his hand at one of the rocks jutting out of the ground and yelled, "Shinra Tensei." And as he said those words, energy raced from his arm, out from his hand and rippled through the air with destructive force. The rocks were shredded into fragments of their original size. The debris hovered in the air momentarily. A smirk had formed on Sasuke's face. He then called out, "Bansho Tenin." The fragments responded instantly, as if obeying a master's hurtled towards him at blinding speed, an avalanche seeking its origin. Sasuke leapt to the side, barely dodging the stones that slammed into the ground where he had just stood moments before. He straightened, the thrill of his newfound power surging through him. These were not simply techniques. No, they were tools of domination, and he would make everyone fall under his dominion. Yet, he knew this was only the beginning. His Rinnegan held more secrets, secrets he had to uncover if he were to subjugate the entire world and destroy all corruption. Naruto was in his apartment. Had been 3 days since he had been discharged from the hospital, and this was the first time he had spent any meaningful time there. He was either training his body with his vitality clones or at Ichiraku Ramen. In 3 days' time he had gained the equivalent of 300 days' worth of fitness and was feeling better than he ever had in his entire life. He could not feel any drain on his life force, but that was probably the Uzumaki blood in him, which would mitigate the effects. He always had 100 shadow clones working on various aspects of his training: chakra control, mastering the Flying Thunder God technique, and anything else he and Kurama thought could be useful. Right now 100 vitality clones were training his physical body. Despite the intense training regimen, both Naruto and Kurama were bored. That was saying something, especially since Kurama hadn't felt bored in over 300 years, a long story in itself. Naruto stared out the window of his bedroom, watching her bustle of Konoha's streets with mild interest. The steady hum of outside contrasted sharply with the whirlwind of activity happening within him, both physically and mentally. Kurama's grumbling voice broke the silence. "Oi, brat, we've reached a plateau. All this training, and yet the real threats are still leagues away. This boredom isn't just in my head, it's in yours too." Naruto signed, rolling over in his bed. "I know, Kurama. But what else can we do? We've already pushed my body and chakra to the limits in such a short time. Even with the clones, there is only so much I can do on my own." "Then stop relying on yourself, brat." Kurama's voice was sharp. "There's a world full of power and knowledge out there. Maybe it's time to seek out allies, or rivals, that can push you further." Naruto considered this. Kurama was right. He couldn't carry everything alone, not with the threats looming over them. But where would he start? He was already leagues ahead of most shinobi in the village, and his allies were busy with their own missions and responsibilities. "Who's left?" Naruto muttered. "I've trained with Kakashi-sensei, and Sasuke's off doing whatever Sasuke does. I can't exactly barge in on Gaara for another sparring session. Think bigger, Naruto. There are others out there, legends, even beyond the great nations. Or have you already forgotten your father's lessons about the Toads, or the other great summoning clans? Then let's go pay a visit to the Toads, shall we?" Naruto adjusted his gear as he reached the outskirts of the forest. His pace was brisk, leaping from branch to branch with ease. The scent of morning dew and the faint rustle of leaves accompanied him, but his mind was focused on the task ahead. "Do you think they'll have anything new for me, Kurama?" Naruto asked, curiosity tinging his voice. "The Toads are ancient and have secrets even you haven't scratched the surface of," Kurama replied. "And it's not just about what they can teach you. The connection to nature, the refinement of sage mode. You'll need every edge if you want to face what's coming." As the landscape shifted, Naruto felt the distinct pull of natural energy. Mount Myoboku's aura was like an old friend welcoming him back. The familiar twisting paths, the great statues of toads carved into the cliffs, and the bubbling streams brought a wave of nostalgia. Naruto soon arrived at the great toad sage's chamber. The massive, ancient toad sat atop his dais, his eyes half closed in a meditative state. "Ah, Naruto," the great toad sage said, his voice deep and slow. "I foresaw your return. The winds of fate carry you here once again." Naruto knelt respectfully. "Grandpa Sage, I need your help. There are threats out there stronger than I've ever faced. I need to become even stronger, not just for me, but for the world." The great toad sage studied him for a moment. "Strength. Yes. But strength is not just physical, Naruto. To grow truly strong, you must confront not only the enemies before you but also the storms within." Naruto had settled into a rhythm on Mount Myoboku. His days alternated between intense training with Fukasaku, one of the great toad sages, and enjoying Ma's famous cooking. It was a welcome break from his usual ramen indulgence. Ma had taken an immediate liking to Naruto, often insisting that his appetite was as big as Jiraiya's, and she was happy to spoil him with all sorts of dishes. Naruto, for his part, found that her meals were just as satisfying as a bowl of his beloved ramen, if not more so. Today, however, it was all about training with Fukasaku. The great sage was teaching him how to tap into the deeper layers of natural energy, aiming for a level of mastery beyond what Naruto had ever achieved before. Fukasaku's lessons were tough, often pushing Naruto past his physical limits, but each challenge was one that Naruto accepted eagerly. The true mastery of sage mode, Fukasaku explained, was not just in drawing natural energy from the environment, but becoming one with nature itself. Naruto felt a deep connection to the energy around him. It wasn't just about absorbing the natural energy that surrounded the mountain. He had to merge with it, synchronizing his chakra with the very essence of nature. Fukasaku had told him that this was the key to maintaining sage mode for long periods without losing control, a step he hadn't yet mastered. As he stood in the center of the rocky terrain, surrounded by trees and clouds of swirling natural energy, Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on syncing his chakra with the world. "You have to feel it, Naruto," Fukasaku's voice called out, firm but patient. "It's not just about gathering energy. You need to become a part of it. In this state, everything flows. You flow with it." Naruto nodded, trying to let go of his previous habits. In the past, his approach to chakra was always very hands-on, using his sheer willpower to force his way through battles. But Sage Mode was different. It required an understanding of the natural world, a calm and measured approach that Naruto was still learning. As Naruto focused, the air around him seemed to vibrate, and he could feel the energy beginning to flow into him. At first, it was overwhelming. The power of the natural world surged into him, threatening to overwhelm his senses. But Naruto had learned through countless battles and experiences that he had to trust himself. He took a deep breath, centering his mind, and let the energy settle into his body. For a moment, everything went still. It was like a perfect harmony between himself and the world around him, his chakras syncing perfectly with the natural energy. "Well done, Naruto," Fukasaku said, a note of approval in his voice. "You're getting closer. You can maintain that for longer next time." Naruto's focus deepened as Fukasaku's voice echoed in his ears, grounding him in the present moment. The great sage's words resonated with him, a reminder that mastering Sage Mode wasn't just about his overwhelming chakra or strength. It was about understanding balance, harmony, and connection with nature. It was about becoming more than just the user of power, but a vessel for it, flowing with the earth's energy rather than controlling it. For the first time, Naruto felt like the energy was no longer something he had to force into his body but something he was attuned to. The natural world no longer felt foreign or untouchable. It was as if he was a part of it, his chakras synchronized with the ebb and flow of the mountain's pulse. The buzzing intensity he had felt before was now calm, manageable, and most importantly, stable. As Fukasaku spoke again, Naruto opened his eyes and looked around. The rocks, the trees, and the clouds seemed sharper, as if the world itself had taken on more life and clarity. His senses were heightened to an extent he hadn't imagined possible. His connection to the world felt deeper, richer. "I can feel it," Naruto murmured, a sense of awe creeping into his voice. "It's like everything is alive, all of it, just waiting to be a part of me." Fukasaku nodded sagely. "Exactly. The next step is learning how to remain in that state for longer periods. The more you can stabilize this connection, the longer you can tap into that power without losing control." Naruto, feeling a sense of accomplishment but knowing the road ahead was still long, gave a determined nod. "I won't stop until I get it. I'll master Sage Mode, Fukasaku. I'll keep pushing." The old sage smiled, his sharp-toed features softening in approval. "I know you will, Naruto. You've always had the heart for it." Naruto had made incredible progress in his training over the past few days. After 4 days of constant practice, he had reached a level of harmony with nature that he had never imagined. The connection was no longer something he had to actively work at, it was as natural as breathing. He was in sync with everything around him, the trees, the wind, the very soil beneath his feet. His chakra felt like an extension of the world itself, and the distinction between himself and the environment around him was almost non-existent. He could feel the vibrations of the earth, the subtle movements of the air, the pulse of energy in the rocks and plants. It was as if he was one with the world, and the world was one with him. When he closed his eyes, it wasn't just the sensory overload of nature that filled his mind, but a quiet, peaceful hum, a balance between himself and the elements. He no longer felt as if he were a human among nature, instead, he felt like part of the very fabric of the world itself. "Naruto, you've come a long way," Fukasaku's voice broke through the calm, his tone tinged with approval. "But remember, this is only the beginning. True mastery of Sage Mode is about control, being able to tap into that energy without losing your sense of self." Naruto nodded, his body at ease but his mind alert. He understood the weight of Fukasaku's words. He had learned to feel the natural energy around him, but controlling it, making it work for him without overwhelming his body or mind, would take more time. "I'm ready," Naruto said, feeling the steady pulse of the natural world through his body. "Let's keep going." Fukasaku smiled. "Then let's take it to the next level. You've become one with nature, but can you stay grounded even when it's tested?" Naruto stood with a steady focus, absorbing Fukasaku's words. He was ready, or at least, he felt ready. The feeling of harmony with nature had become so ingrained in him that it was now second nature. But Fukasaku's warning echoed in his mind, control was key. Fukasaku gave a knowing nod before stepping back. "All right, Naruto. To truly master Sage Mode, you must prove your ability to remain in control, even when faced with a challenge. You felt the natural energy flow through you, but can you maintain your connection when your emotions run wild?" Naruto's brow furrowed. He was no stranger to the dangers of losing control. After all, his battles with Kurama were constant reminders of the destructive potential of unchecked power. But this was different. This wasn't just about his strength or chakra, it was about the energy of nature itself. Fukasaku raised his hand, and before Naruto could react, the great sage launched several high-speed stones toward him. The rocks flew through the air with deadly intent, testing his reflexes and ability to maintain his composure. Naruto quickly raised his hands, feeling the natural energy surge through him, and with a calm, steady breath, he instinctively activated his enhanced sage mode. The rocks were pulled toward him by a natural force, but instead of breaking them apart or deflecting them with brute strength, Naruto focused on the balance of the world, redirecting the stones in a controlled pattern. The rocks slowed as they approached him, and with an almost imperceptible gesture, Naruto sent them soaring harmlessly into the ground. Fukasaku watched carefully, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Not bad, Naruto. You didn't just react, you guided the natural energy around you. But let's see how you handle this next test." Suddenly, Fukasaku unleashed a burst of raw natural energy directly at Naruto, sending a shockwave of force that rattled the earth. The force was so intense that it caused the ground to tremble beneath Naruto's feet. Naruto's first instinct was to brace himself, but he quickly realized that the key here wasn't to stand his ground but to flow with the force, just as he had learned to merge with nature. The natural energy coursing around him swirled and twisted, and as it approached, Naruto expanded his awareness, letting the energy pass through him, redirecting it to the ground where it could dissipate harmlessly. He stood tall, the rush of energy flowing around him like a gust of wind, unable to disturb his focus. The earth stilled, and the shockwave calmed. Fukasaku's voice echoed with approval. "You've done it, Naruto. You've learned to control not just the energy but the chaos it can bring. You're learning to control both the natural energy around you and the emotions that come with it." Naruto exhaled slowly, a grin spreading across his face. He had done it. He had proven that he could not only connect with nature but could also command the power it provided with calm precision. "You're ready for the next step," Fukasaku said. "Mastering Sage Mode is about understanding the flow of nature, but maintaining that flow during battle, when emotions like fear, anger, or desperation arise, is where your true test lies." Naruto nodded. It wasn't just about controlling nature, it was about maintaining balance within himself, something he'd been striving for his whole life. The road ahead was still long, but for the first time, he felt confident that he could walk it with strength, purpose, and control. Naruto's final test on Mount Myoboku was unlike anything he had faced before. Now that he had mastered the art of becoming one with nature, there was one last obstacle standing between him and his full potential: the ability to maintain this perfect balance under the most intense pressure. Fukasaku had been watching Naruto's progress with pride, but today, he spoke with a rare seriousness. "Naruto, what you've achieved so far is impressive," Fukasaku said, his old eyes narrowing slightly. "But this final test will prove if you're truly ready for what lies ahead. True mastery of Sage Mode is more than just tapping into nature's energy. It's about controlling it when everything else is pushing back, when your mind is clouded, and your body exhausted. The real challenge is maintaining that connection under duress." The Toad Sage led Naruto to a large, open field at the foot of a steep mountain, a place where no distractions or interference could break the focus required. "Your test is simple, but its difficulty lies in the details. You'll face an enemy, one who will try to sever your connection with nature and force you to lose control. All your strength, all your training, it will come down to this. If you can hold onto the natural energy within you, despite the pressure, then you'll be ready for the next phase of your journey." Naruto's heart raced in anticipation, but also with a sense of determination. He knew what this meant. The test was not just about raw power, it was about mastery, discipline, and mental fortitude. He had to prove he could face the worst that nature, and himself, could throw at him, and still maintain control. Before Naruto could react, a figure emerged from the shadows, his very own shadow clone, but with a sinister twist. This clone was different. Its eyes were filled with dark energy, a reflection of his own struggles with his inner demons. It was an enemy born from his own fears and doubts. The clone charged at him, using every skill Naruto had ever learned against him. The clone wielded elemental jutsu, used chakra-enhanced physical strikes, and even attempted to sever Naruto's connection to nature by creating a distortion in the chakra flow. Each blow felt like a blow to his very essence. The air crackled with the raw energy of their clash, but Naruto knew he had to stay calm. He focused on his breathing, centered his mind, and drew on the natural energy around him. As the clone pressed harder, Naruto could feel his own doubts rising, the exhaustion from training mounting on him. His mind began to waver, but he reminded himself of everything he had learned. This is what I've trained for. With a sudden burst of focus, Naruto's Sage Mode flared brighter than ever before. He pushed past the clone's attacks and absorbed the distortion in the air, redirecting it back at his opponent. The clone flickered, faltered, and finally, shattered like glass. Naruto fell to his knees, exhausted but victorious. The connection to nature was still there, vibrant and alive within him. Fukasaku stepped forward, nodding his approval. You've passed, Naruto. Not because you defeated the clone, but because you controlled yourself in the face of your greatest adversary, yourself. Naruto stood tall, a sense of peace settling over him. He had conquered the final challenge, mastering not just Sage Mode, but the ability to hold onto it through the darkest, most challenging moments. He was ready. And with that, he knew his journey was far from over, but the road ahead had just become much clearer. Sasuke had been testing his new abilities for days now. He discovered that his Susanoo was now perfected, its form towering at an astounding 400 meters tall. The once ethereal, semi-transparent shape had been fortified with an iron-like armor, giving it a metallic sheen that gleamed like molten steel in the sun. The chakra construct, now brimming with an unmatched aura of power, could move with fluid precision, its every step sending tremors through the ground. The changes were not just visual. Sasuke felt a newfound level of control, the power flowing seamlessly with his will. His Susanoo's defenses were impervious to most attacks, and its offensive power was unmatched. He could summon immense amounts of chakra into it, conjuring weapons of destruction, like the longbow he used to fire devastating arrows that could obliterate entire landscapes in an instant. What was even more terrifying was his ability to manipulate the energy around him. Sasuke was now able to use his newly enhanced Rinnegan abilities, Shinra Tensei and Bansho Tenin, not just on objects, but on the energy within his own Susanoo. The results were catastrophic, with each blast of force shattering the surrounding environment, creating shockwaves of raw chakra that felt like a natural disaster. However, Sasuke knew he had to be cautious. The Iron Heart had fused with him in a way he hadn't fully understood yet. The more he pushed his abilities, the more he could feel the raw, uncontrollable power bubbling within him. It was a tempting force, the likes of which he'd never felt before, but with great power came great danger. Naruto had just returned to Konoha after he left to train with the Toads. To avoid causing concern over his sudden disappearance, he had left behind a shadow clone. It was one of his reinforced clones, designed to withstand a beating, so there was no need to worry, even if Tsunade ended up punching it all the way to Suna. Naruto arrived at the Hokage's office, his steps confident despite the weight of his recent training. He pushed open the door, greeted by Tsunade's sharp glare as she worked through stacks of paperwork. "So, you're finally back," Tsunade remarked, barely looking up. "Your clone was convincing, but I had a feeling the real you was off somewhere." Naruto grinned sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. "Had to train, Ba-chan. Important stuff." Tsunade sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Well, next time you go on an adventure, tell me first. Preferably before you vanish without a word." Naruto laughed nervously. "Sure thing, promise." She crossed her arms, glaring at him. "You better. The last thing we need is people panicking about the hero of the leaf disappearing." Yeah, we wouldn't want that," Naruto replied, his tone light but laced with nervous laughter. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Well, what exactly did you do on your little escapade?" Naruto's grin widened. "I was with the Toads training." "Well, what did they teach you in?" Tsunade pressed. "How to become one with nature," Naruto said, his voice carrying a rare note of pride. Tsunade's brow furrowed as she studied him. "One with nature, huh? That sounds awfully vague, even for you, Naruto." "It's not vague. It's..." Naruto paused, searching for the right words. "It's like I can feel everything around me, the trees, the wind, the earth. I've gotten stronger, Ba-chan. A lot stronger." "Stronger is good," Tsunade said, tapping her fingers against her arm. But I hope you learned more than just how to hug a tree. What else? Well, Naruto hesitated. Let's just say you'll be impressed when you see it in action. Impressed or worried? Tsunade asked dryly. Because with you, it's usually both. Naruto's grin widened, but he didn't elaborate. Guess you'll have to wait and see, he said with a mischievous glint in his eye. With that, they made their way to the training ground, Tsunade's curiosity evident in her skeptical gaze. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the open field. Naruto wasted no time settling into a familiar cross-legged position at the center of the clearing. Tsunade crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. Alright, Naruto, show me what this one with nature nonsense is all about. Closing his eyes, Naruto took a deep breath. The lively energy that always seemed to surround him shifted. Slowly, a calm stillness enveloped him, like the breeze had decided to dance in time with his breath. The leaves on the nearby trees rustled softly, as though responding to an unspoken command. Tsunade's expression flickered, a trace of intrigue breaking through her skepticism. Moments passed, and Naruto's presence seemed to fade, becoming almost indistinguishable from the world around him. Birds chirped nearby, unconcerned by his proximity, and even the insects that had been buzzing aimlessly quieted, their movements oddly synchronized with the rhythm of the forest. Tsunade took a step closer, her brow furrowing. This feels different. It's like everything's, she paused, struggling to find the words, connected. Naruto opened one eye, his grin as wide as ever. Told ya, Granny, this is what it means to really feel nature. Impressive, she admitted, though her tone remained gruff. But don't get cocky, brat. Let's see how this works in a real fight. Naruto leapt to his feet, his confidence unshaken. Bring it on, he said, his blue eyes gleaming with excitement. He then became one with nature, his presence blending seamlessly into the environment. It was as if Naruto and his surroundings had become indistinguishable from one another, a part of the same harmonious rhythm. Well, brat, Tsunade said with a smirk, rolling up her sleeves, let's see how you handle this. Without hesitation, she bent down, her strength easily tearing a chunk of earth from the ground. The jagged piece of dirt and rock flew through the air as she hurled it at Naruto with precision and force. The projectile hurtled toward him, but Naruto didn't flinch. Instead, he moved like a leaf carried by the wind, fluid and effortless. His body shifted just enough for the chunk to miss him entirely, embedding itself in a tree behind him with a dull thud. The tree shook from the impact, but Naruto remained as steady as the earth itself. Whoa, he said, his grin never wavering. You're not holding back, huh, Granny? Tsunade's smirk widened. You wanted a real test, didn't you? She crouched slightly, her stance poised for another attack. Nature or not, let's see if you've got what it takes to outmaneuver me. Naruto closed his eyes for a brief moment, his breath steady as the energy of the forest seemed to ripple through him. The ground beneath Tsunade's feet shifted subtly, roots curling upward and stones moving as if alive. She leapt back just in time, her eyes narrowing in recognition. Using the environment, huh? She muttered. Not bad, kid. Naruto chuckled, the sound light and easy, though his focus was razor sharp. Told you, Tsunade, I'm one with nature now. And nature doesn't lose. Well, let's see if nature can handle this. Tsunade shouted, launching herself at Naruto with explosive speed. Her fist, backed by her legendary strength, aimed directly for his face. Naruto's eyes widened, but instead of panicking, he moved like a gust of wind, light and effortless. As her punch neared, he leaned back, the movement so fluid it seemed almost preordained. Tsunade's fist missed him by a hair, slamming into the ground instead. The impact was catastrophic. A shockwave rippled outward, shattering the earth and leaving a crater in its wake. Chunks of debris flew in all directions, but Naruto weaved between them with a grace that bordered on supernatural. It was as though the rocks themselves bent around him, unwilling to disturb his harmony with the world. Whoa, Tsunade, trying to break my face on the training ground? Naruto quipped, grinning even as he remained on high alert. Tsunade straightened, brushing the dust off her gloves. You're dodging well, she admitted, her tone both begrudging and impressed. But dodging alone won't win a fight, brat. Naruto clasped his hands together, a playful yet determined glint in his eyes. Who says I'm just dodging? As he spoke, vines burst from the ground, snaking toward Tsunade with alarming speed. She twisted her body, dodging the first tendril with ease and ripping another apart with a sharp tug. But more followed, as if the forest itself had joined Naruto in his attack. "Nature's got my back, Granny," Naruto called, his voice carrying above the chaos. "Let's see if you can keep up." Tsunade grinned despite herself. "Don't get cocky, kid," she yelled, smashing through another vine with a well-placed punch. "You'll need more than a few weeds to take me down." It was then that Tsunade felt the ground beneath her shift unnaturally. Roots coiled around her ankles, tightening with surprising strength. Before she could react, the earth itself seemed to betray her, pulling her downward inch by inch. She struggled against it, planting her feet and attempting to leap free, but the grip was relentless. "What the?" Tsunade growled, her fists smashing at the roots in a desperate bid to free herself. Yet for every tendril she destroyed, another would take its place, even stronger and more unyielding. The ground seemed alive, reacting to her every move as if it anticipated her strength. Within moments, she found herself buried up to her shoulders, then her neck, until only her head remained visible above the surface. Her golden hair was dusted with dirt, and her expression was a mix of frustration and disbelief. Why can't I get out?" she barked, wriggling her head in vain. "This is ridiculous." A safe distance away, Naruto doubled over in laughter, clutching his sides. "Oh, man, Tsunade. I wish I had a camera right now. You look like a giant talking turnip." He wiped a tear from his eye, clearly enjoying the moment a bit too much. "Laugh it up, brat," Tsunade snapped, her tone dangerous despite her predicament. "The second I'm out of here, you're done. You hear me?" Naruto straightened, his grin still plastered across his face. Come on, Granny. Don't be mad, it's all part of the training." He tapped his foot on the ground, and the vines responded, tightening slightly before loosening, as if taunting her. "Besides, you're always saying I need to get creative, right?" Tsunade's glare could have burned holes through stone. "Creative, my foot. Get me out of this, now, or you're the one who's going to be buried next." Naruto sighed, still smirking. All right, hold on." He clasped his hands together, the energy around him softening. The roots slowly receded, the ground relaxing its hold as Tsunade was gradually lifted free. As she brushed off the dirt, Tsunade's smirk returned, a dangerous gleam in her eye. "You've had your fun, Naruto. Now it's my turn." Naruto's grin froze. Maybe I should." Before he could finish, Tsunade lunged forward, her fist raised high. "Let's see if nature can save you from this," she roared, bringing her punch down like a meteor. The impact was devastating. Naruto was sent flying through the air, his body careening across the village like a leaf caught in a hurricane. He finally slammed into the main gate, embedding himself comically in the wooden structure, arms and legs splayed like a starfish. At their post near the gate, Kotetsu, one of the eternal gate guards, raised an eyebrow as he glanced up at the human-shaped crater now adorning the gate. "Hey, Izumo," he drawled, poking his partner on the arm. "Think we should get him down from there?" Izumo looked up from his paperwork, unimpressed by the sight of Naruto dangling awkwardly from the gate. He shrugged and went back to his forms. "Nah, he'll come down eventually." Kotetsu chuckled, leaning back against the gate. "You gotta admire the kid's dedication, though. He's always pushing his limits, even if it means becoming part of the scenery." Naruto groaned from above, his voice muffled. "I'm fine, totally fine." In the distance, Tsunade appeared, walking toward the gate with a smug smile and brushing her hands off like she'd just completed a routine chore. "Let that be a lesson, brat," she called up to him. "Nature might have your back, but it won't stop a good punch." Naruto's muffled voice replied, "Duly noted." "Ba-chan?" Kotetsu burst out laughing, while Izumo simply sighed. "Guess we'll need a carpenter," he muttered, shaking his head. In Konoha prison, Obito sat in his dimly lit cell, the faint glow of a single overhead light casting long shadows on the stone walls. His mask was long gone, and the scars on his face told stories of battles and betrayals. Shackles bound his wrists, not that he tried to struggle against them. He sat motionless on the small cot, staring at the blank wall before him as if searching for answers in its rough texture. The muffled sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Obito's dark eyes flicked toward the barred door of his cell. A moment later, a figure appeared, none other than Kakashi Hitaki, his former friend and teammate. "Obito," Kakashi greeted, his voice neutral but laced with an undercurrent of something unspoken. Obito's lips curled into a faint, humorless smile. Kakashi, here to lecture me again, or just to enjoy the sight of your old friend locked away? Kakashi ignored the jab, stepping closer to the bars. You're not just my old friend, Obito. You're the reason so many of us are still alive. I didn't come to lecture. I came to talk. Obito raised an eyebrow, leaning back against the wall. Talk, huh? Funny thing to do with a prisoner. What's the catch? No catch, Kakashi replied, his single eye calm but unwavering. But I do have questions. About you, about everything that happened. I want to understand why you made the choices you did. Obito laughed softly, the sound hollow. Why? To redeem me? To make sense of the chaos? Or maybe you're just trying to convince yourself that what happened wasn't entirely my fault. Kakashi's silence lingered for a moment. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself there's still hope for you. That made Obito pause, the faintest flicker of emotion crossing his face. But just as quickly, his expression hardened again. Hope, huh? You always were the optimist, Kakashi. Even when the world proved us wrong time and time again. Kakashi sighed, his hand gripping the cold iron bars. You can call it optimism if you want. I call it faith. Faith that there's still a part of you worth saving. Obito turned his gaze back to the wall, the ghost of his younger self flickering in his mind. We'll see, Kakashi. We'll see. It had been a month since Naruto began his physical training, increasing his fitness level to 3,000 times what it originally was. This made his base form significantly stronger than his fully amped state during the original war arc, much stronger. Along with his physical progress, Naruto had been dedicating himself to studying with his shadow clones, guided by Kurama's advice. He knew that to protect his friends and family, he needed to reach his full potential, and that meant mastering both the yin and yang aspects of his chakra. His balance between the two was improving steadily, and his intellect was also growing. He was already sharper than Shikamaru had been when he was 13. All hail the shadow clone came a chorus of voices singing out from the great beyond. And, it was during one of the nights during this month that he received a visit. Flashback. Day 23 of his physical training. Naruto was dreaming of ramen, nine-tailed foxes, and Ma's famous stew. He chased after them with all his might, but, like in every other dream, he could never quite catch them. On his 56th attempt that night, just as he reached out for his prize, he was suddenly pulled into his mindscape. Ashura, quit dreaming, said a voice unfamiliar to the blonde boy. Huh? What? Naruto muttered, confused as the visions of ramen, foxes, and stew faded from view. Look up, Ashura, the voice said again, firm yet calm. Naruto tilted his head upward and saw an incredibly old man, with horns on his forehead, floating in the air. The figure radiated a serene yet overwhelming presence, and beneath him hovered 10 black orbs, perfectly aligned. Resting in his lap was a peculiar staff, a shakuho. The upper section of the staff was shaped like a crescent, sleek and smooth, its edges gleaming faintly in the dim glow of the mindscape. Dangling from the crescent were 6 metallic rings, which jingled softly with every subtle movement the old man made. The shaft of the staff was polished to perfection, its surface a seamless blend of black and metallic gradients, exuding both elegance and power. Naruto blinked, still trying to process the sudden shift from his dream to the enigmatic figure before him. I have come to speak with you, Ashura, the man said. You have already achieved great strength, but more is required of you. Naruto straightened up, unsure of what was happening but instinctively understanding the importance of the moment. What do you mean? Who are you? The man smiled gently. I am Hagaromo Otsutsuki, and I have been watching you. The path ahead of you is fraught with formidable enemies, ones unlike any you've faced before. You will need strength beyond what you have now. Naruto furrowed his brow, a hint of frustration creeping into his thoughts. How can I get any stronger? He wondered. I've already gained enough fitness to withstand Baryon mode, and in that time, my chakra reserves have increased drastically. It's even possible to maintain a 3-way Baryon mode between me, Kurama, and natural energy. He couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. He had already pushed himself so far, but Hagaromo's words suggested there was something more he had yet to tap into. Something that would take him beyond even his current limits. His mind raced, searching for answers, but no clear path emerged. Hagaromo seemed to sense Naruto's confusion. Strength alone will not be enough to face what's coming, Ashura. What you've gained so far is impressive, but true power comes not just from physical ability or chakra reserves. The power you will need is deeper, within your very essence. It is a power that you have yet to unlock. Naruto's gaze hardened. He wasn't sure what Hagaromo meant, but he could feel the weight of the situation. If he was going to protect his loved ones and defeat the enemies ahead, he would have to find this deeper power, whatever it was. Hagaromo's voice softened as he continued. This gift I offer you will help unlock that power. But remember, true strength requires more than just raw power. It demands wisdom, perseverance, and an unwavering resolve. Naruto nodded, his heart burning with determination. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll find a way to use this power, just like I always do. Hagaromo's expression was a mix of approval and quiet understanding. You will, Ashura. But remember, the greatest challenges often come when we least expect them. Be ready. With those final words, the figure of Hagaromo began to fade, leaving Naruto standing alone in the vast expanse of his mindscape. The glowing light of the mysterious gift still lingered, as if waiting for him to reach out and claim it. It was then that he reached out to the glowing orb. He could feel the warmth it radiated, letting off a subtle, yet satisfying hum. When he touched it, a surge of energy shot through his fingertips, sending a jolt of power coursing through his entire body. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before, ancient and primal, yet familiar, as if it resonated with something deep within him. For a moment, everything around him seemed to fade away, and he was engulfed in a bright, swirling light. His senses expanded, as if the very essence of the universe itself was flowing through him. He saw flashes of distant stars, vast, untouchable galaxies, and the endless spiral of time itself. It felt as if he was connected to every living thing, every force in existence, all at once. Then, just as quickly as it had come, the light receded, leaving Naruto standing in the quiet of his mindscape, breathless. The orb had dissolved into a warm, golden light that now swirled around him, settling into his chest. He could feel it, a new power, a new understanding. It wasn't just an increase in chakra or raw physical strength. It was something far more profound. His connection to the natural world, his bond with Kurama, even his understanding of his own will. Everything seemed to align in a way that felt limitless. He took a deep breath, letting the newfound energy settle within him. A sense of calm and confidence washed over him, as if he had just unlocked the next stage of his evolution. I can feel it, Naruto murmured to himself, a smile forming on his face. He had no idea what exactly this power was, but he could tell it was something incredible. He had just taken another step toward becoming the protector he needed to be. From the distance, Hagaromo's voice echoed one last time, softer than before, but filled with meaning. This gift will guide you, Ashura. Use it wisely. Naruto clenched his fist, feeling the pulse of power within. He didn't know exactly what threats lay ahead, but now, he was ready to face them head-on. With renewed determination, he turned, ready to step back into the real world, knowing that the battles to come would be unlike anything he had ever faced. End of flashback. It was at the moment Naruto recalled the event that he suddenly leapt from his bed. While in midair, a black chakra rod, measuring the same height as Naruto, 5 feet 7 inches or 170 centimeters, pierced through the floor beneath him, leaving a 3 by 3 foot hole in his bedroom. He quickly turned his gaze to the right, through the window, and saw an alabaster-skinned man standing outside. The figure had a horn wrapping around his head, resembling a crown, with 8 magatama arranged in a line down his chest. In his left eye, the man possessed a Byakugan, while his right eye was marked by a black background with a yellow 8-sided wheel in the center, the intricate design converging at his pupil. Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the figure outside his window. The man's aura was unmistakable, the oppressive energy radiating off him like a storm. His mind raced, trying to identify the figure standing there, but the strange eyes and the unsettling presence told him that this was no ordinary foe. The man raised his hands slowly, and the chakra rod that had pierced through Naruto's floor shifted. It floated mid-air, spinning with a sinister hum, before the figure snapped his fingers. Naruto braced himself, ready to react, but the chakra rod shot toward him faster than he could blink, aiming straight for his chest. In a split second, he summoned his chakra and threw up a quick defensive stance, feeling the rush of energy surge through his body. You're awake, the man's voice echoed calmly, almost as if he were speaking to an old friend. Impressive. I thought I'd have to do more than that to rouse you. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he assessed the figure before him, floating outside of his window. His mind raced, the sharp clarity from Hagaromo's visit still fresh in his thoughts. Something about this man felt eerily familiar, his presence, his energy, everything about him. Naruto clenched his fists, trying to steady his thoughts. Are you the same guy the first fought in Baryon mode? He asked, his voice steady despite the tension building in the air. Your presence is very similar. The man didn't immediately respond, but the faintest, knowing smile crossed his lips. Ashiki's posture was calm, but his presence was suffocating. Baryon mode, he mused, his tone almost contemplative. You are strong, Naruto Uzumaki. But what you fought before wasn't truly me. It was the vessel I've inhabited. Now, however, his voice trailed off, and he allowed his chakra to surge, sending an unmistakable wave of power into the air. Now, I am free to show you my true form. Naruto's gaze hardened, and he straightened up, meeting Ashiki's intense gaze. He could feel the weight of Ashiki's power, but something inside him refused to back down. His fists tightened at his sides, and his heart beat steady with purpose. Well, no matter how much stronger you are compared to when we last fought, I am still stronger. Ashiki's smile widened, a mixture of amusement and disdain flickering in his eyes. You talk big, Naruto Uzumaki. But words alone won't save you from the inevitable. Naruto took a deep breath, his expression serious. We'll see about that. I don't lose when it counts. Without wasting a second, Naruto launched himself into the air, his speed a blur as he shot toward Ashiki, aiming to land a blow that would give him the upper hand. His plan was simple. Get close enough to use his Flying Thunder God technique to teleport both of them outside of Konoha. He had to keep the battle away from his friends and the village. You're not getting away this time. Naruto grunted under his breath, his hand reaching out to make contact with Ashiki. Ashiki's eyes flickered with amusement. Without a hint of panic, he raised his hand, effortlessly swatting Naruto's strike aside as if it were nothing. The moment Naruto's palm missed, Ashiki's own hand shot forward with blinding speed, aiming straight for Naruto's chest. Naruto's instincts kicked in just in time, twisting his body mid-air to dodge the incoming attack. The force behind Ashiki's strike was enough to crack the air itself, sending shockwaves rippling through the area. TCH. Naruto grunted, narrowly avoiding the deadly blow as he quickly repositioned himself. The shockwave from Ashiki's strike was so powerful that it obliterated the apartment buildings directly below them, sending chunks of concrete and debris flying in every direction. Naruto was sent crashing into the remains of one of the buildings, landing hard in the rubble with a loud thud. The force knocked the wind out of him, but he quickly recovered, pushing himself up with a determined look in his eyes. His enhanced physique allowed him to shake off the impact far quicker than most, and despite the damage, his mind was already working through his plan. He had sent a shadow clone ahead earlier to teleport every civilian far from the area, ensuring no one in Konoha would get caught in the crossfire of this battle. With his new chakra reserves and control, he could afford to make that move without worry. Everyone was already safely out of the village. Now, it's just you and me, Naruto muttered, brushing debris from his clothes as he straightened up. His body was already adjusting to the intense pressure of the battle, his enhanced fitness allowing him to stay on his feet despite the destruction around him. Ashiki hovered above the ruins, watching Naruto with a calm yet cold gaze. You've done well to clear the area, but it won't save you. Naruto's eyes flickered with a new intensity as he called upon the power of Sage Mode. His body pulsed with natural energy, blending seamlessly with the world around him. The moment his chakras shifted, the vibrations of the environment flooded his senses. He could feel the weight of the broken buildings around him, the tremors of the destruction still lingering in the ground, but more importantly, he could feel the presence of every living thing in the area, as well as the ominous miasma that clung to Ashiki like a dark cloud. Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind. I've been gathering natural energy for you, brat. Be ready. This fight's only going to get tougher from here on out. Naruto's senses sharpened, his vision clearing as he took in the battlefield in a way he never could before. He could feel the life force of every person he had teleported out of the village, each one safe beyond the outskirts of Konoha. He felt the cool night air and the vibrations of the shattered earth beneath his feet. But it was Ashiki's presence that stood out the most, pulsating like a malignant force. So this is what it's like to sense you, Naruto thought, his gaze sharpening. Not even the strongest physical barrier can hide your presence. Ashiki floated above him, observing with that same, unbothered demeanor, as if his opponent was nothing more than an insect he could squash at will. That's quite the trick, Ashiki mused, clearly amused by the sudden change in Naruto's energy. But it won't be enough. Naruto narrowed his eyes, every muscle in his body tensing. I've learned a lot since we last fought. And I'm not going down without giving it everything I've got. With a roar, Naruto exploded forward, moving faster than the eye of a cage could track. The air around him warped from the sheer force of his speed. He was a blur of orange and green, the raw natural energy swirling around him, his chakra enhanced by both Sage Mode and the bond with Kurama. The ground cracked beneath his feet as he shot toward Ashiki, his fist glowing with concentrated chakra. Ashiki didn't flinch. With a simple flick of his wrist, he activated his ability to manipulate space, creating a massive barrier that blocked Naruto's punch with a crackling sound of energy. Naruto's fist collided with the barrier with enough force to create a shockwave, but the barrier barely budged. I expected as much, Ashiki said, his expression still calm. You're stronger than before, but you're still too weak to touch me in this form. Naruto's eyes hardened, frustration welling up inside him, but he didn't stop. Not now. Not when I've come this far. He pushed against the barrier, drawing on more natural energy, his muscles bulging as he roared again and tried to break through. But it was no use, the barrier held strong, and Ashiki wasn't moving an inch. Naruto gritted his teeth as he pushed against the barrier, the strain evident in his bulging muscles and the raw force of his chakra pouring into the effort. Natural energy surged through him in waves, amplifying his strength and resolve, but it wasn't enough. The barrier stood unyielding, and Ashiki remained as immovable as a mountain, a smug expression etched onto his alabaster face. Naruto's frustration bubbled over into a primal roar as he drew on every reserve he had. Then, suddenly, a thought clicked in his mind, a possibility that had never occurred to him before. Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind, alarmed. Naruto, what are you thinking? Baryon mode, combined with this natural energy? You're going to burn through more than chakra. You could destroy yourself. I don't have a choice. Naruto growled back, determination laced in his words. If I don't stop him now, there won't be a konaha left to protect. With that, he allowed the natural energy within him to fully merge with the power of Baryon mode. The transformation was instant and overwhelming. His body erupted in a radiant golden red aura, the fiery energy of Baryon mode now interwoven with the pure, tranquil essence of nature itself. It was a contradiction, raw, volatile power tempered by the calm stillness of the natural world. Naruto's whisker marks deepened, glowing faintly against his skin. His golden eyes took on a fiery hue, the pupils narrowing to slits that exuded an unyielding intensity. The chakra tails formed once more, flickering wildly, but they no longer felt unstable. Instead, they moved with purpose, as though guided by the harmony of the natural energy that now pulsed through him. The ground beneath him cracked and splintered further as the energy around him surged, creating a vortex that pushed back the rubble and debris. The oppressive miasma surrounding Ashiki wavered for the first time, the pure force of Naruto's presence cutting through it like sunlight piercing through a storm. Ashiki's eyes narrowed, the calm confidence on his face replaced by something colder, wariness. This is new, he said, his tone flat but betraying a hint of intrigue. Naruto grinned, his fiery aura blazing with renewed intensity. The merging of Baryon mode and Sage mode wasn't depleting him as Kurama had feared. Instead, his body, fortified by the rigorous training he had undergone over the past month, adapted seamlessly to the overwhelming power coursing through him. Guess I forgot to mention something, Kurama, Naruto said with a sly smirk as the fox spirit rumbled in surprise. All that training? It wasn't just about getting stronger. It was about making sure I could handle this. Kurama let out a chuckle, his voice now tinged with pride. You're full of surprises, kid. Let's see how far this can go. The barrier shattered completely, and Naruto strode forward, his steps confident and deliberate. His chakra tails swirled behind him like flames dancing in the wind, and his golden-red aura illuminated the battlefield, casting long shadows across the rubble-strewn ground. Ashiki's narrowed eyes betrayed a flicker of unease, though he quickly masked it. "So, you've managed to refine your power," he said, his tone measured. "But raw strength won't save you, Naruto Uzumaki. It never has." Naruto's grin widened, his gaze unwavering as he met Ashiki's cold stare. "You're right, raw strength alone isn't enough. But this isn't just strength. It's control, it's purpose, and it's enough to take you down." Naruto's aura blazed like a sun as he pressed his assault, each strike backed by the combined might of Baryon mode and Sage mode. The battlefield trembled under their clash, shockwaves leveling what was left of the village outskirts. Yet, for every opening Naruto found, Ashiki countered effortlessly, each movement precise and deliberate. Ashiki sidestepped a punch that cracked the ground beneath them, then caught Naruto's follow-up kick with one hand. "Impressive power," Ashiki said, his voice calm but tinged with disdain. "But power without purpose is meaningless." With a sudden twist, Ashiki flung Naruto across the battlefield, his body carving a trench through the rubble. Naruto sprang back to his feet instantly, unyielding, and dashed forward again, fists glowing with chakra. This time, he feinted a strike and aimed for Ashiki's torso with a Rinnegan infused with natural energy. Ashiki didn't flinch. Instead, he shrank the Rinnegan mid-flight, rendering it harmless, then expanded it just as it passed Naruto, forcing him to dodge his own attack. Before Naruto could regain his footing, Ashiki appeared behind him, slamming a black rod into his shoulder and pinning him to the ground. "Is this what the great Naruto Uzumaki amounts to?" Ashiki sneered, planting his foot on Naruto's back and pressing down hard. "Your newfound strength is remarkable, but you're still bound by human limitations. You cannot defeat me." Naruto growled, pushing up against the weight with all his might, his chakra flaring violently. The rod dissolved under the pressure, and Naruto spun to deliver an uppercut. Ashiki blocked it with ease, retaliating with a knee to Naruto's stomach that sent him sprawling. "You've trained well," Ashiki continued, his tone almost condescending as he floated above Naruto. "But you misunderstand the nature of this battle. Power is not enough. Strategy is not enough. You are nothing compared to the might of the Otsutsuki." Naruto rose to his feet again, his breathing heavy but his resolve unshaken. "You talk too much," he muttered, charging forward once more. This time, Ashiki didn't bother countering immediately. Instead, he allowed Naruto to land a flurry of blows, each one creating shockwaves that reverberated across the battlefield. But Naruto quickly realized something was wrong. Despite his attacks connecting, Ashiki didn't budge, his body barely reacting to the strikes. "What's wrong, Uzumaki?" Ashiki mocked, catching Naruto's wrist mid-punch. "Do you feel it yet? The futility?" Ashiki tightened his grip, and Naruto felt a surge of energy sap from him as if his strength was being drained directly. The oppressive feeling of Ashiki's power grew heavier, suffocating even the natural energy Naruto had been drawing upon. Before Naruto could react, Ashiki slammed him into the ground with devastating force, creating a massive crater. He followed up with a series of blows, each one driving Naruto deeper into the earth. Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind, filled with urgency. "This isn't working, kid. We need a plan before he crushes us completely." Naruto coughed, blood trickling from his mouth as he struggled to rise again. His vision blurred, but he refused to give up. "I won't let you win," he growled, summoning another burst of chakra to stand. Ashiki appeared in front of him in an instant, his hand gripping Naruto's throat. "You already have," he said coldly, lifting him off the ground. "This is the difference between us. You fight with heart, but I fight with inevitability. And now, Uzumaki, your end has come." With a flick of his wrist, Ashiki hurled Naruto across the battlefield once more, his body slamming into the remnants of a building. This time, Naruto didn't rise immediately. His aura flickered, his strength waning. Ashiki landed softly, brushing dust from his robes. "Your defiance is admirable, but ultimately pointless. Rest now, and know that your efforts were in vain." As Ashiki prepared to deliver the final blow, Naruto struggled to his knees, his determination unwavering despite the odds. The battle wasn't over, not yet. But for the moment, it was clear. Ashiki held the upper hand. As Ashiki prepared to deliver the final blow, Naruto struggled to his knees, his determination unwavering despite the odds. The battle wasn't over, not yet. But for the moment, it was clear. Ashiki held the upper hand. Ashiki's fist hurtled toward Naruto, the force of its velocity creating a deafening sonic boom. Naruto braced himself, raising his arms in a desperate block, clinging to the faint hope that the impact wouldn't tear him apart instantly. Then, it happened. A surge of energy ignited within him, like a wildfire erupting in his chest and racing through his body. It wasn't just power, it was something primal, overwhelming, and intoxicating. He felt more alive than he ever had before, every nerve alight with raw intensity. The collision came. Ashiki's fist struck home, but the expected devastation didn't follow. Instead, Naruto stood firm, unmoving, his body absorbing the impact as if it were nothing. Ashiki's eyes widened in disbelief. How? Ashiki's thoughts raced as he stared at Naruto, his own power reflected back at him like an impenetrable wall. This is impossible. Just moments ago, Naruto had been coughing up blood, barely able to stand. Yet now, he was withstanding Ashiki's full strength without so much as a scratch. Ashiki gritted his teeth, fury and confusion bubbling beneath the surface. What is this power? As Ashiki staggered back, bewilderment etched across his face, Naruto felt the inferno within him surge, but it was no longer chaotic or untamed. Instead, it was purposeful, as if someone, was guiding it. A memory flashed in Naruto's mind. Hagaromo's words from what felt like lifetimes ago. You possess a strength that goes beyond chakra, beyond bloodlines or technique. It lies in the depths of your will. When you understand that your resolve is not just your own, but shared by all those who believe in you, then you will truly awaken. Naruto stood tall, his eyes gleaming with a light that wasn't the Kyuubi's, nor even the power of the Sage of Six Paths. This was something else, something wholly his. His will, the sheer, unyielding determination that had brought so many to his side, was no longer confined to his heart. It had taken form. You don't get it, do you? Naruto said, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable weight. This isn't about me beating you with raw power. It's about what I stand for. What we stand for. Ashiki's brows furrowed as the space around Naruto seemed to shimmer. Not from heat or chakra, but something far more profound. The debris from their battle stopped midair, floating as if caught in an unseen current. The ground beneath Naruto's feet cracked and groaned as he took a step forward, his presence bending reality itself. Suddenly, Ashiki felt it. A pressure, an invisible force, crushing down on him. He struggled to move, to breathe, as if the weight of an entire world had descended upon his shoulders. What is this? Ashiki snarled, forcing his body to resist the overwhelming force. This isn't chakra. This isn't nature energy. What trick are you playing? Naruto's eyes softened, yet the power around him only grew. It's not a trick. This is my will. The will of my friends, my family, everyone who stood with me. And now, it's your turn to feel what it means to carry the hopes of so many. As Naruto raised his hand, the shimmering force coalesced into a glowing, translucent construct, a massive hand, not unlike the Susanoo, but far more ethereal. It wasn't fueled by rage or vengeance but by pure resolve. He clenched his fist, and the construct mirrored him, a ripple of kinetic energy tearing through the battlefield. Ashiki roared and unleashed a barrage of his shrinking cubes, but they dissolved before they even reached Naruto, as though his sheer presence nullified their existence. Naruto stepped closer, each stride resonating like a drumbeat in Ashiki's ears. This is the power you'll never understand, Naruto said, his voice echoing with an almost divine resonance. It's not just mine, it's ours. The will to protect, to endure, to never give up. And that's something you'll never be able to destroy. Naruto's hand shot forward, the glowing construct mimicking his movements. It struck Ashiki with a force that wasn't just physical but emotional, spiritual. It carried the weight of every bond Naruto had ever forged, every promise he'd ever made. The ground quaked, the air split, and Ashiki was hurled backward, his body smashing through the remnants of the battlefield. Naruto stood still, the glowing aura around him fading, but the power within him remained steady, like a flame that would never extinguish. He clenched his fists, feeling the truth of Hagaromo's words settle in his heart. This wasn't just his fight. It never had been. And now, with his will made manifest, he knew he could stand against any force, no matter how godlike, for as long as his friends and loved ones believed in him. And as long as he believed in them, Sasuke stood in his secluded hideout, the dim light casting long shadows against the jagged stone walls. His hand rested lightly on the hilt of his sword, but his mind was elsewhere, immersed in the powers he now commanded. The Iron Heart had transformed him, reshaped his very essence, and though the mastery of these abilities had taken a month of grueling effort, they now felt as natural as breathing. He raised his left hand, and his eyes, his Rinnegan, now imbued with 6 tomo, gleamed in the gloom. The memories of discovering its enhanced powers surfaced. Eminate Hikara, his space-shifting technique, had initially disoriented him, but now it was second nature. With a thought, he could displace himself or his enemies across distances, the space between them folding in an instant. The ability to summon portals, too, had come with this evolution, allowing him to traverse dimensions with a simple gesture. He clenched his fist, feeling the chakra pulsing within him. The Iron Heart had elevated his control over it to godlike levels. No longer was chakra merely a force to be shaped, it was an extension of him. Weapons, shields, intricate constructs, he could will them into existence with unparalleled precision. He remembered testing this ability, shaping an intricate lattice of energy that withstood a barrage of attacks from his Susanoo, a feat that left even him astonished. The memory of his first time wielding elemental fusion brought a slight smirk to his lips. Fusing fire and lightning to create thunderfire had been an accident, but the destructive force it unleashed was anything but. He could still hear the crackling roar of the flames and the blinding brilliance of the lightning as they merged into an unstoppable inferno. He'd since refined the process, imagining countless combinations yet to be unleashed. The gravity manipulation had been the most unnerving at first. He had stumbled, quite literally, during his first attempts to amplify gravity in localized zones. But now, he could crush opponents to the ground or send them hurtling skyward with a flick of his fingers. The sensation of bending gravity to his will was intoxicating, a reminder of the sheer weight of the power he bore, both metaphorically and literally. He glanced down at his hands, recalling the chilling realization of kinetic energy channeling. The first time he redirected the momentum of an enemy's strike, the shockwave had destroyed half the training area. Now, the technique was refined, precise. Each movement became a potential weapon, every force directed against him turned into an advantage. And then, there was the Iron Heart itself. Sasuke closed his eyes, remembering the first time he surrendered himself to its overwhelming power. The sensation of merging with it, the Iron Heart's will, was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. In that state, he became something more than human, his abilities elevated to the point where reality itself bent to his command. But the cost was steep, he could still feel the emptiness it left behind, the toll on his body and spirit. A power like that wasn't meant for mortal hands, and yet, it was his to wield. Opening his eyes, Sasuke looked to the horizon. These powers weren't just tools, they were the keys to reshaping his destiny, his world. With the Iron Heart coursing through him, he had transcended his limits, but he knew this was only the beginning. A storm was coming, and Sasuke was ready. The Iron Heart had fused with him in ways that defied logic, transforming him into something far beyond a mere shinobi. But with this new strength came new risks. The chakra absorption ability, for example, could be devastating in the wrong hands. Sasuke had only tested it a few times, using it to drain the chakra from trees and rocks, and even a wild animal's chakra, redirecting it into his own reserves. The sensation was both satisfying and dangerous. Absorbing too much chakra could overwhelm his body, and he could feel the faintest hint of the Iron Heart trying to exert its will over him when he used it recklessly. The elemental fusion was the next power he had experimented with. His thunderfire attack was particularly deadly. When combined with his Chidori, Sasuke could send bolts of lightning infused with flames to devastate entire landscapes. It was an attack that could obliterate multiple targets in seconds, and the mere thought of using it in battle was both exhilarating and terrifying. Gravity manipulation was another ability Sasuke hadn't fully tested yet. He could feel the potential of this technique, the sheer destructive force it could generate when combined with his speed and precision. If he could control the gravity around an opponent, making them feel weightless or crushed under intense pressure, their ability to fight would be crippled in an instant. The kinetic energy channeling ability, though, was by far one of his favorites. He could sense how the world moved, how the air shifted and how each step he took created ripples in the environment. Sasuke could redirect that energy, whether from a punch or an entire battlefield, and send it hurtling toward an opponent. It was a form of combat that relied on observation and timing, and Sasuke could already see how it could be used to dismantle even the most aggressive foes. But the most dangerous of all was the Iron Heart's will. Sasuke had only unlocked this power once, in the heat of a sparring match with a shadow clone. The surge of energy that flooded through him was like nothing he had ever experienced before. His body had felt like it was on fire, his chakra flowing like an unstoppable river, but there had been a moment when the energy almost consumed him entirely. He had barely managed to snap out of it before the power took over completely, and that was a moment he'd never forget. The Iron Heart was far more than just a tool. It was a living, breathing force of nature that Sasuke had to learn to control, or risk it controlling him. Ashiki sat alone in his dimly lit hideout, a grand chamber carved from otherworldly stone in a secluded dimension. The air around him was heavy with malice, his presence making the very fabric of the space tremble. He clenched his fists tightly, his body still bearing the faint scars of the battle that had humiliated him. Ashiki snarled into the void, his voice echoing with frustration and fury. His golden eyes flickered with a venomous glow as his mind raced. His perfect plan, meticulously crafted for millennia, had been shattered. And it wasn't by some cunning tactician or a rival god. No, it had been undone by a mere human, or rather, by the brat blessed by Hagaromo. Ashiki rose to his feet, his form towering and imposing despite his weakened state. Hagaromo, he hissed, spitting the name like it was poison. That ancient fool, even in death, he finds ways to meddle in my designs. Ashiki sat in the dimly lit chamber of his hideout, the air thick with the oppressive weight of his frustration. His servants had failed him, again. They were supposed to have brought Kawaki to him by now. Yet, the boy still wasn't in his grasp. Every second that ticked by felt like an eternity. I took a huge risk revealing my true form in Jigen's body. It took 2 days just to get back here, and in 3 hours, I'll die forever. And yet, they're taking this long to bring him to me. And with that new surge of power coming from the sage's home, and from the reincarnation of Indra no less. He looked at the boy in front of him. Kawaki. He was to be his vessel for the foreseeable future. But, he could not stop thinking about Naruto, the perfect vessel. Naruto? The battle. Ashiki had underestimated the Uzumaki. Despite the power coursing through his body, despite the interference from the strange force awakening inside him, Naruto had survived Ashiki's onslaught. In all his centuries of existence, Ashiki had never encountered a vessel that could withstand his full strength. But Naruto had done so. That power was still inside him, and for a moment, Ashiki had considered. What if Naruto could be the one? Naruto's body had endured, but his will was still tied to his own. Ashiki's original plan had been to mark him before that power had fully taken root. But now, with the unexpected surge of energy that flowed from the awakened power of the Sage of Six Paths, Naruto had become more unpredictable. His body was strong, yes, but the potential to be a true vessel was no longer guaranteed. No matter. The boy will not last forever. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.